Okay, I'm here. Chotomate, let's get started. Hello, my name is Tamashi, and today we are having TamaTalks. Where the hell is my logo? Let me show you my logo so you guys can know what I'm talking about. So you can perceive there we go, TamaTalks. I just punched my mic, my bad. Welcome to TamaTalks, where I speak on social issues that matter to me. Today we will be talking about Shireen Abu Akleh, a slain journalist that was basically killed by Israel, and I will tell you how I found out about the story, how she was killed, the aftermath of that, and also basically we're gonna be watching a documentary on her. I feel to pay our respects. I also want to look at a recently slain journalist in Lebanon. Actually, I feel like the similarities are really intense, and it just goes to show how much Israel's genocidal tendencies just keeps escalating and escalating. Palestine is completely flattened at this point. A lot of people are dying and suffering right now. And now they're trying to do that with Lebanon, you know? It's not right. And I feel like looking at the similarities between Shireen's death, and we will also be talking about Amal Khalil's death, just goes to show how much Israel is escalating their need to kill, basically. So that's what we're going to do again. I urge people to look at my about page on Twitter for rules and or more information on me. Also look at the pinned, I forgot to put the pin on the YouTube chat, my bad. But basically look at the description box if you're a YouTuber. I try not to be too jokestery during my TamaTalks because I want to take the things that I talk about seriously. So yeah, I'll be as goofy as possible, but yeah, just be respectful. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let me look at my notes here. Oh yeah, and also I deeply apologize for canceling the last TamaTalks. Yeah, I've been having very intense migraines lately, and they haven't been stopping. They just hit me like a truck out of nowhere, so it kind of leaves me immobile. Let's see here, my news. Let me look at my notes here. So, oh yes, and also before we start talking about Shireen, I would also like to announce that both Thiago and Saif have been released from prison. They have been returned to their respective countries after, yeah, torture basically, and threats to their lives and their loved ones' lives. I believe they might return to the boats, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but that's pretty hardcore. That's pretty fucking cool. I believe they're going, at least Thiago. I believe Thiago is going to rejoin the boats and try to head to Gaza. I'm not sure though. I have to confirm that myself. But they are, at least as of like a few days ago, maybe 4 to 5 days ago, Thiago and Saif have been released from Israeli prison. So I also would like to thank all of those who were willing to speak out and, you know, talk to people about it, donate to charity, boycott, be loud, or anything, you know? I feel like lately my TamaTalks viewership has been going down. It's mostly because of my inconsistency to stream. I've been very, yeah, I've been very sick lately, so I really deeply apologize that. I really wanted to do TamaTalks on Tuesday, 2 days ago, because that was like the exact anniversary of Shireen's death. So it would have been a perfect way to respect and honor her life. But again, things happen. I understand that. Difficulties always happen. I know I'm usually on my own in the VTuber sphere when it comes to talking about these things. I won't get any support for it. That's not the point of me doing these streams. My point is that if anyone watches this and is inspired to do what's right, to not ignore what's going on, to do the basic things to, you know, encourage the survival of the Palestinian people, the Lebanese people, or anyone else suffering from the US's corruption and from Israel's corruption, we gotta talk about it. And you know what? It all started, well, it didn't all start. There's been many people talking about what's going on in Palestine. But you know what is very impressive is that at least in the sphere where, you know, not many people are interested in these types of things, or not even interested, more like, how do I say this? People wouldn't have known about Palestine if it hadn't gone to mainstream media. People have to realize that Israel's propaganda and victimhood has been normalized since they became a country after World War II. A fake country that, you know, had to, the only way for it to become a country was to, you know, kill a bunch of Palestinians and do the Nakba, and basically they're doing another Nakba right now, and kill a bunch of Palestinians, steal their land and their livelihood. You know, a lot of people don't know about that. There's been people who realize it, care enough to go to Palestine itself and try to raise the voices of Palestine. But if you were to do that shit, people would literally be at your throat. Especially with Dad. I kind of learned about Palestine through, again, Hassan Abi. He's right there behind me, right there. And all it took was for me to see Israel bomb a journalistic building, I believe it was. And I thought that was fucked up. I'm like, what? Once I learned that Israel has like a very powerful military and defense system, while the Palestinian people have shit, like, okay, yeah, like, Palestinians defend themselves, by the way. When you kill their family members and steal their homes, they throw a rock at you, and Israel fucking bombs a whole ass building trying to silence journalism and kill as many people as possible. For me, during that time, I thought that was a bit unfair. This was during COVID when I first witnessed that, and Hassan was talking about it. And so, because the only person I talk to about politics is my dad, I was like, Gordo, what the fuck is up with Israel? I thought, you know, I was raised to be like ultra Christian, chap. I was born Catholic, then I turned Christian, and then I became a Seventh-day Adventist, and I was really intense and into it. I was a child though. And yeah, I was just led to believe that Israel is the Holy Land, right? They deserve everything, and when the second coming arrives, the God's people will obviously be from Israel, because that's where Jesus was from, yada yada, right? A bunch of propaganda, right? A lot of scripture in the Bible taken out of context and twisted into building this narrative that would victimize a country that has been supported by the US with millions of American tax dollars, like infinite wealth, infinite weapons, and propaganda, in which again enables their perceived victimhood, right? And so when I talked to Dad about it, that was kind of my first step into questioning, like, more. I've always been the type to question things, even when I was in religion, but I was pretty faithful. Like, I'm faithful. I'm loyal to something or to someone until I have enough evidence that it's not worth it. It's not worth to believe whatever I'm believing anymore, or whoever I believe in anymore, right? I've always been the type to question everything, until I come up with my own conclusion. And so that was basically the first time I ever questioned this weird ass fucking trust that I had for Israel, right? It just didn't really make sense to me after I saw that. And so when I mentioned that to my father, oh my God, he was basically saying, okay, well, of course they're going to bomb them into smithereens. They're always attacked. They're the victim here. Imagine being attacked every day by these people. And then I'm like, Dad, but when you compare the two, you're complaining about someone, metaphorically speaking, and sometimes literally speaking. I mean, there's a lot of evidence where, children are throwing rocks at the Israeli soldiers that are taking their home away, that are abusing another child or their family member, someone innocent. This actually happens. What's it called? But in that case, I'm like, metaphorically speaking, Hamas, I believe Hamas was a thing by then, I'm assuming. Hamas or whoever is resisting against Israel has only sticks and stones. While Israel has infinite wealth and a shit ton of upgraded military weapons. And when you attack someone and you abuse them and they try to defend themselves with a rock and a stick, and your reaction is to bomb a whole ass building, of course I'm going to see that wrong and question that. And so I tried to tell that to my father, and he was just, we were both screaming and yelling at each other, chat. After that day, I literally told my dad, I said, Gordo, you are evil, and one day you will see how evil you are right now for what you just said to me, for defending the aggressor, the one with the most power, and not humanizing those that are trying to defend their humanity. God damn it. And I slammed the phone, BAM! And I hung up very dramatically, very angry. Many years later, about, not even, chat, I think it was literally a year later, chat, a year or two. October 7th happened. October 7th happened. And because I've been hearing right there, Hassan talk about Palestine, like I already knew who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Never in my life, chat, did I think that there would be a second Holocaust. And a Holocaust that would be worse than the one that we've learned in history books, right? Yeah, it has surpassed that. It is worse. And this time, we're live streaming, murdering people on national television, if it's not censored, by the way, on the internet. You know, journalists trying to warn us about how they're being brutally killed. It's insane. Eventually, you know, I had a phone call with my mom and she told me, well, why aren't you talking to your dad anymore? And I said, listen, Mom, you already know what's going on in the news. It's everywhere. And at this point, if you guys don't believe in me, or not in me, but believe what I'm saying, that Israel is in the wrong, then I want nothing to do with you or that man. And so then she gave the phone to my dad and I started yelling at him. And I'm like, look what your mentality has brought to these poor people. You, a bunch of sheep that refuse to learn, to see the reality. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And I was sending dad a bunch of videos of Palestinian people being slain. I think one of the things that moved him the most is when I sent him a video from journalist, oh my god, what's his name? One of the journalists from Palestine that was able to escape, the main one, the really famous guy. I haven't heard of him lately. I wonder how he's doing. Yeah. Well, eventually I remember his name, my bad. But yeah, basically what was in the video, chat, was of a little boy, probably 3 years old, I believe. He was shot at, and the bullet, or at least the fragments of the bullet, went into his knee and completely destroyed his knee. Like, the bone was shattered completely. And because there was many patients, many people, not enough supplies to, you know, to help these people, the boy was on the hospital floor, just bleeding out, just bleeding. His knee was bleeding. You could slowly see the blood just like turning into a pool of blood as it dripped down his knee. And the journalist was explaining, we don't know who the parents of this boy is. He survived, but both of his parents are dead. We believe both of his parents are dead. And he is alone on the floor, bleeding out right now. And then all of a sudden, we saw a group of people see the boy and start crying. And then when the news was told to them that both of the boy's parents were possibly dead, they were just in shambles, just looking at the boy and bawling their eyes because they couldn't do anything. And the boy was just on the floor, bleeding out, crying. No anesthesia, just bleeding out with his knee completely shattered into pieces, chat. A 3-year-old. And my dad just stayed silent. He was just completely quiet. And then when he spoke, He said, "I think you're right." And no matter what political beliefs you have, unless you are devoid of empathy, humanity, and feelings and righteousness, you will eventually see that that is fucked up. You will. It's true, because you also have a bunch of Republicans be anti-Israel, even though they're racist, even though they obviously call for many fucked up things. But the issue of Palestine at this point cannot be denied unless you have sold your soul completely to Israel. And I would have been the same too if I hadn't opened my ears to what I was hearing, question more things, the things that were taught to me since a young child. Again, I was programmed as a young child to believe that Israel was the Holy Land. I used to be super religious, okay? But I questioned, I asked, I talked about it. And it took a while. It took a while with my father. It took him 2 years to realize, oh my God, this is fucked up. And now to this day, my dad is like, he's in the process as well of questioning everything. He's going through what I went through in my early 20s. I'm still young. I'm still in my early 20s. Wink. Wink. Right, chat? Okay, no one's here to hear that. Don't clip that. But my dad is like, what? How old is dad? Like 40? I don't know. He's pretty young. Is he 40? I don't remember how old dad is. But dad is like 40, man. And now he's barely going through that phase where he's like questioning. I don't know if he's questioning his faith, but he's questioning everything that has been taught to them. He's also ultra religious. So me, when it comes to religion and politics, like as someone who used to be an ultra religious person, I know that dad is like super religious as well. So I ask him questions about that. It's kind of crazy, the journey that people go through to realize the reality of things in life, which is why you guys should still talk about it. Again, I learned all of this through Hassan. After I learned, Hassan was the introduction. After that, I went on my own to investigate things on my own. And when I can, I listen to Hassan's input. But I feel like more people need to have that realization, that importance. And that's the thing. The media wouldn't report on that, right? On the truth. They report on half-truths. So you have to learn how to question everything and make sure that what you're hearing is not a half-truth. Or it's not bending the truth to fit a certain narrative. The reason why I look up to Hassan to a certain extent is because he was able to talk about Palestine, okay, in modern media, okay, through a normal ass Twitch streamer, okay. I guess he wasn't normal, but a political streamer, I suppose. He was still able to go into a space and introduce political concepts and Palestine. Hello, Emil. How are ya? Thank you for... Oh, wait. That wasn't Emil. I'm so sorry. That was Relu. Thank you for lurking 6 times. Sorry, I'm so used to Emil having that, the general PFP. My bad, Relu. Forgive me, for I have sinned. What was I saying? Oh yeah, he was able to basically normalize, not help normalize, but bring the topic of Palestine to all spaces, to all media. Now, everyone knows that Palestine is the victim of genocide. And you'll even have, like, you know, people from every fandom embracing that. Unfortunately, the VTuber fandom is kind of super against talking about any politics, unless it conveniences them. Unless it definitely conveniences them. So I hope that at least when it comes specifically to the VTubing community, I want to, like, help normalize, you know, these things. I don't know why fucking being a chud is so honored. Either being a chud or being a no politic guy, right? So again, Hassan introduced all of this during the peak of everyone questioning everything, of everyone still believing more of what Israel had to say than what Palestinians had to say. Because of this, finally we're gonna be talking about Shireen. Hassan was also my introduction around 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. He was my introduction to learning about what happened to Shireen Abu Akleh. And because I have 2 jobs now, and I'm unable to even watch his streams most of the time. When I could watch his streams, I would sometimes hear him in the background as I was in work during my break times or when I was doing paperwork. And back in the day when Ethan Klein didn't, you know, completely sell his soul to Israel, and he was somewhat still, you know, still able to humanize people. But you could, before he went completely insane, basically. Him and Hassan had a podcast together called Leftovers, and I used to watch that because I used to watch H3, and H3 introduced me to Hassan Abi, and then I became a Hassan Abi fan. So, oh god damn it, the ad break is starting soon. My bad, y'all. But yeah, during a specific podcast episode, Ethan has the tendency to question Hassan and everything, and emphasize how we should make Israel's pain as equal as Palestinian pain. And of course, that is bad because that normalizes what Israel is doing to Palestine. The simple fact is that Palestine wouldn't be suffering if Israel would just take a fucking chill pill and treat these people like humans. Right? They need to chill the fuck out. And they've never been truly chill. They've been removing these people's rights since the day that Israel was created. Again, after World War II. True. Bars. And so, again, Ethan was having this fucking debate lord shit with like, well, actually, but what about this? What about this? And then Hassan said, okay, well, what about this? And he started talking about Shireen Abu Akleh. And as I was hearing what Hassan had to say about this story, about her story, how she was brutally killed, shot in the fucking neck by an Israeli sniper. And then hearing Hassan cry while telling that story, I couldn't help but cry as well at work. I couldn't even see the screen. I had my earbuds in and I was crying alongside him. I just cannot understand why Ethan Klein has become insane, has continued to dehumanize Palestinians by never talking about them, by making anyone who criticized him, his wife, and Israel an enemy. Or any politician fucking human that continues to support Israel. We're going to hear about Shireen's story through Hassan's recollection of it. I gotta clarify as well that Shireen had been recently slain, killed when Hassan was talking about this during this podcast. I'm sure he reported on it on stream, but I didn't see his stream at all until I heard this. So this is how I learned about Shireen Abu Akleh. And again, this is by a modern streamer, a big Twitch streamer, humanizing Palestinians. So let's hear it. Please let me know if you guys can even hear the audio. You can't hear it. Jesus Christ. YouTube, Google Chrome. Is this one? It's not this one. Sorry, chat. Sometimes Twitch decides to not work. Here, let me switch screens. Usually that works. Okay, let me switch back. Okay, please, chat, fingers crossed, please work, or I'm going to crash out and cry and be sad. Okay, please work. Are you not? Why? I'm sorry, chat. I don't know why it's doing this. Thank you for checking in. Emil, sorry I confused you earlier with Relu. I thought you were here earlier and I was like, hi, Emil. It wasn't Emil. It was Relu. My bad. But this time it's real. Hello, Emil. Thank you for joining and checking in. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Let's go. Let's do Twitch. And then let's do YouTube. Please work. I don't want to end stream. I know that it wants me to end stream. I don't want to end stream. I will not. I will not. Here, let's do this instead. Let me make a new tab. Okay, watch me fix this chat. Man, chat, lately OBS has been... it's okay. Appreciate the OBS developers. It's for free. And they help make streaming a better place. But these glitches make me angry. It makes me angry, chat, okay? I cannot lie. I cannot lie. But, I mean, I understand. It's for free, chat, come on. I can't be super angry. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, Hassan Abi was the way I first learned about Shireen and her death. Her wrongful death, by the way. And Let me try this again, chat. No. Shit. Okay. Okay, chat. Fingers crossed, it worked. It worked! Can you guys give me a clap? Because I thought I was gonna end the stream, and I didn't want to do that. I did it! There we go. That's right. Thank you very much. I fixed it, chat. I fixed it. Let's fucking go. Ay. That stressed me the fuck out. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my heart is beating. I haven't slept in two full straight days until today. And, I've been, my heart has not been doing too well, chatta. Let me just tell ya. But thank God, the stream is okay. Yosha. Okay. Jesus Christ. Thank you. Before I was really interrupted by my own OBS glitches, we will now hear how I first heard of Shireen Abu Akleh's unlawful murder, a journalist who was killed by Israel, how I first learned about her death through a podcast that doesn't exist anymore, and you shouldn't subscribe to this channel because the other co-host that is sitting next to Hassan has become very insane, a stalker, and someone who sues anyone that criticizes them, him, his wife, who used to be a part of the IDF, or Israel, okay, and continues to make Israel a victim despite there being super proof that Israel will never be a victim, okay? But back in the day, there used to be a podcast called Leftovers where Hassan Abi and Ethan Klein talked about politics. Hassan being the one who knows like what he's talking about, and Ethan Klein being a typical Democrat who says the right thing but doesn't really understand what he's saying and just regurgitates common propaganda. Again, I was hearing this stream, or this VOD, to be exact. I was hearing this VOD at work while I was working on paperwork. Had my earbuds in. Didn't know I was going to even hear this story. But since she was recently killed, and Ethan was basically debate lording Hassan about, you know, who's the bigger victim, Israel or Palestine, trying to equalize, make Israel's pain as equal as Palestine's, when Israel keeps being the aggressor and killing people unlawfully. Hassan began talking about Shireen Abu Akleh. And I have never heard Hassan cry ever in my life. I didn't even think he was capable of doing that, which goes to show how strong he is in keeping that sort of emotional sadness, you know, away from stream. He usually is always yelling at chat and cussing people out, but I've never heard him cry until this moment. And I was crying at work as I was hearing all of this. So it's very powerful. Sorry. Let me read chat and then I'll start the clip. Damn. Hello, Nola. Hello, Emil. By the way, I don't know if I said that. I hope you get well soon. Thank you, Nola. And he doesn't believe in it. He just knows he should be a good person, doesn't know how to be a good one. Yeah, Ethan, I mean. No, you're right, Dre. You're definitely right. You're right. Like, he knows what's right. And I hated the H3H3. I always hated it until he did the podcast, because he would say how much he hated catering to Nazis, catering to the right-wing people, and that he's changed. And so when I started hearing his podcast, after a while, I truly thought he changed. But now he's become even worse and is catering to right-wingers, to genocidal freaks, even more. It's insane. But anyway, before I start changing the topic again, let's hear Hassan talk about Shireen Abu Akleh and how I learned about her story. And if you don't know her story, then you're going to learn about his story as well through this clip. Let's give it a hear. Let me go to the very beginning here.
Shireen Abu Akleh murder, again, in the hands of an Israeli sniper that the Israeli government said was actually Palestinians, and Western media immediately disproved that. And then what did the IDF do? What did the IDF do?
I don't know.
When a wonderful voice for good, a Christian woman, a Christian Palestinian, and an American citizen, Shireen Abu Akleh, was murdered as she was on her way to one of these refugee camps. She had a press vest on. She had a press helmet on. She was shot in the neck so that she could be assassinated. Okay? This was a major issue. They wanted to do. Sorry, this is really fucked up. They went to her funeral and beat the shit out of people and ripped the Palestinian flag off of her. Palestinians can't have a moment of peace in this fucking world. They can't even mourn the dead. Sorry. The IDF went in and beat the shit out of the Palestinians that were mourning her at her funeral, that were holding her casket, and ripped the Palestinian flag off of her casket. How is that allowed? How can that continue? How do you not see that? That's in the West Bank. This is a Christian woman. This is not a Muslim. This is not Hamas. This is a journalist that was beloved in the Muslim world. And she was assassinated for speaking out and trying to shine a light on the atrocities. It's hard to look, it's very hard to hold my composure on this. This is something I've talked about for years and years. But when that kind of ruthlessness, I sound like fucking Jordan Peterson when he talks about men. Jesus Christ. When that kind of brutality is so normal, so normalized, when that's the everyday existence of Palestinians in the supposed collaborative project with the Israeli government, how can you expect them to do anything but violently retaliate?
Yeah.
There's no end in sight for this. And now you have cynical pieces of shit on social media. If you want to talk about social media and people saying stuff on social media, you have cynical liberal commentators that supposedly adorn the politics of radical emancipation, saying, "Oh, how wonderful that Joe Biden is trying to create an exit corridor, a humanitarian corridor for those who are being bombed in Gaza right now to escape through Egypt." That's still ethnic displacement. That is not humanitarian. It is completely unjustifiable.
And they never did that.
Completely.
They never did that.
There is no equivalent. There is no moral equivalence. There is no equivalence whatsoever. And there is no symmetry in the way that this is covered in the Western media. And that is by design. They refuse to show Palestinians as humans. And they have very successfully been able to dehumanize them.
Yep.
There are voices out there. There are voices in Israel. There are voices out there who see it, who see the brutality, who see the endless humiliation that Palestinian people have endured. And I stand with them, and I don't care. I will always stand with them, even if there is a moment of violent retaliation. Okay? Yep. They have nothing. They have no allies. They have nothing in the world. And people celebrate their destruction. It's happening right in front of our eyes. There's nothing. There's no equivalent. It is so horrifying that this can happen in the supposed only democracy in the Middle East, the supposed beacon of prosperity, in a sea of barbaric Arabs, right, who do mass rapes and love to behead people. All of these, some of which are true, by the way, I know. All of these are racist canards specifically to heighten the tensions and to justify what Israel is doing in broad daylight in moments that the world even chooses to care about paying attention to what's going on in Gaza. That's why I wanted to make the distinction that what goes on in the West Bank, this is constant. This is every day for Palestinians. Every day. It's crazy. Like, I know it's, you can say like, oh, land back movements are supposed to be violent or whatever, but there's nothing more violent than this. This is the violence. It's just that it's legalized. It is state-backed. So we are not trained to see it as a violent act.
Nope.
That's the difference. It's only violent or it's only terrorism when it's a non-state actor or a foreign adversary that engages in it. And that's why if you look at the United Nations, if you look at British or European authorities that have spoken out, correctly condemned Russian atrocities in Ukraine, you will hear silence when it comes to Israel and what Israel has done and what Israel continues to do to Palestinians. Disgusting.
So that's how I first learned of Shireen. And again, this is the first time I ever heard Hassan even cry. I didn't think he was capable of doing that. And of course he got mocked for this. This actually went viral. And he was mocked for it. For humanizing Palestinians and being heartbroken about what had happened to Shireen Abu Akleh and many Palestinians like her, and with good reason, because if you were to see how the motherfucking IOF soldiers were beating the shit of the people who were holding her casket, your heart will be broken. And this is what we'll see, exactly that.
Thousands came to say their goodbyes. Many are feeling they knew Shireen personally. That's how much she connected with her audience, telling the story of her people, and now becoming the story.
So many people love her and will continue to love her through the strength of her reporting, but also the love that the people around the world have for us in Palestine. People know that what Israel's doing is a war crime, and they feel helpless, but today we don't.
The occupation she long reported on. Just as the coffin started its final journey to the church. Mourners were pushed and beaten by Israeli forces as they stormed the hospital square. The pallbearers retreating, her coffin nearly falling to the ground. Border police in riot gear, on horseback. Baffling scenes. At least one man pulled out of the hearse. Israeli forces also removing the Palestinian flag.
I knew they were not going to let this day go by peacefully. I was on the front lines when we were trying to exit the hospital while they were carrying her casket. And the troop, they just stormed in and they were beating up everyone. It was very frightening, to be honest.
There was also tension when Shireen's body arrived outside the church in the Christian quarter of the old city. Crowds filling the small streets of this ancient city. But once the coffin made it inside, granted more peace.
Shireen Abu Akleh brought the message of every Palestinian suffering. God created life not to be assassinated, but to be nurtured.
Abu Akleh was shot dead in the occupied West Bank while on an assignment in the Jenin refugee camp. Her funeral procession was joined by thousands of Palestinians, a show of the widespread affection and admiration she had earned through her years of reporting on their lives. Shireen Abu Akleh was buried next to her parents at the Mount Zion Cemetery. Both her parents died in the early stages of her career and never knew how loved and respected she'd become.
Wow.
The crowds have gone, the family has gone. Shireen's grave has now been sealed. But even after her death, she continued to tell the Palestinian story. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera, in occupied East Jerusalem.
And I don't know, for me, that's intense. For me, seeing them beat up the people holding her casket and them almost dropping the casket on the floor with her inside of it. I don't know. I don't see how that wouldn't make anyone else cry or anyone else not care. So it's intense. And it's sad, and that's why we should definitely talk about her. I feel like the best way to honor her her life is also to just watch a documentary of all of the events happening and what happened to her and her legacy. And maybe for us, like, maybe you might think, I don't know her, like, why should I be sad and stuff? But I want you to think of the news person in your home country that you instantly think of, the person who reports on the daily news, nationally, someone that when you turn on the TV, you know who that is. You recognize them because they're famous. They report on the news. That was Shireen for the Palestinians. And after her death, many more journalists were killed and slaughtered in the same way, or unfortunately in even worse ways. She was a national symbol who left America to report on on her people's suffering. She never stopped reporting on her people's suffering. And now we will look at a documentary showing us to what led to her death, how she died. There might be a lot of TOS, so I'm going to also be censoring the screen from time to time. But I did see that they censored some of the parts here, so we'll see. Images and discussions of violence, murder, and death from the start. Warning, trigger warning.
Breaking news overnight, a reporter for the Al Jazeera network was shot and killed while covering an Israeli raid in the West Bank.
We are absolutely heartbroken to learn of the killing of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh and injuries to her producer Ali Samudi today in the West Bank. We send our deepest condolences to Shireen's family, her friends and loved ones, and strongly condemn her killing, as we do the killing of journalists around the world.
And then, you know, they didn't do anything about it. At first, they tried to claim that Palestinians had killed her. And were forced to acknowledge that that wasn't the case. And to this day, there has been no justice served for her death. And I mean, how? How when Palestine is now destroyed? That's what's even more sad about this. That after this incident, you know, Palestine has been completely destroyed, with many innocent civilians just trying to survive with what's left of Palestine. So just think of that. And when you hear all of these leaders and American representatives supposedly, quote unquote, not condoning her unlawful assassination, it's a lie. Because look at us now. Look at everything now. Look at how many people they've killed now. Look at Palestine.
To 500 million people around the world, Shireen Abu Akleh was the trusted face that they would rely on for news from the Middle East. For more than 20 years as a Palestinian-American journalist, Shireen was living the very story she was covering: the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
She was, as you say, wearing a helmet and body armor that was clearly marked as press when she was shot.
Shireen was an American citizen with deep ties to the United States. Born in Jerusalem, she was raised Christian and spent much of her childhood in New Jersey. Shireen was drawn back to the region to cover the suffering and tragedy of the Palestinian people.
Her loss was felt, profoundly, because she was somebody who had covered this, covered the region, knew it profoundly, and was a household name to Palestine, not just Palestinians, but people across the region.
I've been covering the Middle East for 20 years, most recently for the Wall Street Journal. I've been kidnapped in Gaza, blown up in Beirut.
I'm standing in the wreckage of my apartment.
Beirut.
And shot at by Houthi fighters in Yemen. I've lost journalist friends to Israeli tank fire, so Shireen's death hit me hard. Her death sent shockwaves through the region. Thousands of people lined up to mourn her.
With our souls in your blood, we are with you, Shireen. When the
funeral procession set out for the cemetery, the police in Jerusalem attacked her casket. sparking even more outrage. And because Shireen was a U.S. citizen, her death and the Israeli response created an immediate crisis for the Biden administration. One U.S. official said privately that Israel had killed Shireen twice by attacking her casket.
Damn.
The thing that was, very striking right at the start of this was the way in which the public statements very clearly attempted to shift responsibility for her death onto Palestinians. The very first statement that was put out by the IDF, which creates a sort of portrayal that there was overwhelming gunfire from Palestinians.
Immediately following Shireen's death, Israel's then Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, blamed Palestinians for her killing and set up a narrative that Israeli soldiers would never intentionally target a journalist clearly wearing body armor labeled with press.
Investigating attacks on independent media and prosecuting those responsible are of paramount importance.
When the White House
then why didn't you do it?
Likely that a Palestinian shooter killed Shireen, the Biden administration called for the shooter to be prosecuted. And this was a president who said he would never tolerate attacks on American citizens around the world. However, there was a problem with the Israeli explanation. There were no Palestinian gunmen anywhere near Shireen or her team.
Who would have thought, chat?
At the scene said the fatal shots came from Israeli forces 200 meters up the road from Shireen. Within days, the Israeli narrative collapsed under the overwhelming evidence of eyewitnesses corroborated by video.
All the investigative work that went on by both the media and...
They don't even put that much effort in their lives. That's the thing, because they're just used... Look at what Biden did, by the way. Biden started October 7th. By not stopping it, okay? Of course, there's always been injustices done by Israel against Palestinian people. But why didn't he stop October 7th from escalating to the point where it is now? Why did he give the baton to Trump? Said, here you go. I will give you this blueprint on how I've allowed Israel to commit another Nakba, to commit the world's worst Holocaust that will be known in history for a lifetime. Here you go, Trump. Here you go. Biden immediately believed Israel. That's the thing. That's why they don't even try to lie well. They don't, because Israel has always been given, not even a slap on the wrist, a tap on the wrist, boop. And then after tapping them on the wrist, Biden gives them, infinite wealth. Of course, the US has always been giving Israel infinite wealth. But again, October 7th happened under the Biden administration, and instead of stopping it, they funded it. They funded it with American tax dollars and infinite weapons, alongside other countries, but mainly the US. So, of course, Israel's not even gonna try to hide it. Especially now, we can definitely see how even more little of an effort they're putting. They're getting away with genocide. Things have gotten way worse since Shireen's execution. Basically, they shot her in the neck for no reason, and it was disproven. They shot her in the neck and they tried to get away with it because they've always been allowed to do that.
And other agencies into this clearly showed that initial account from the IDF was not accurate.
After a few months of evading responsibility, Israel finally admitted one of their own soldiers killed Shireen. American officials said they couldn't determine if Shireen's killing was a crime without talking to the shooter. But Israel refused to cooperate. No one has been held to account. Justice has not been served. I want to know, who killed Shireen? If we don't answer this question, more journalists, more Americans, and more innocent people will be targeted and killed with impunity. So we decided we were gonna find the shooter ourselves.
Oh shit! What? Wait! Oh shit! I haven't seen this chat, by the way, so this is my live reaction. A film by Fatima Abdulkarim, Dooney Sabam, Connor, and Connor. Sorry, Connor.
When Shireen was killed, it was such a shock to all of us, and then to watch how Israel used misinformation and disinformation to obscure the facts for months was really disturbing to me.
Shireen was not just
Fatima
any journalist. She
Abdulkarim
is the first American Palestinian journalist, who has been killed by Israeli forces.
Shit. I didn't know she was the first. The first Palestinian American killed by Israel. And we let them get away with that? Again, Biden let them get away with that? The Democrats don't care about American citizens, goddammit. I could see that clearly as a child, but even more now. Jesus Christ.
In the West Bank.
I think the bigger story for us is why the U.S. government abdicated any role in this investigation and why Israel has refused to tell the U.S. government the name of the shooter and who the shooter was and any information about the shooter.
The Biden administration produced a classified report on Shireen's death, but they refused to release it.
Of course, yes.
We know the senior Biden people, they're not talking about Shireen's death. They're not talking about Palestinian deaths. They're not really talking at all. Are there going to be people here in D.C. over the next couple of days that are lower level that might be willing to talk?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of people here that are longtime sources that I want to hit up on this. Because it's so closed off, they're very reluctant to talk. But it's the end of the administration. I'm hoping that maybe they'll ease up a little bit and be more willing to share information.
Do we think that any of them have the actual name, though?
Yeah, I don't think anybody has his name. When she was first shot, the U.S. wanted to interview the guy, and Israel said no.
Do we think it's so closely held because it's embarrassing to Israel?
I think it's for political reasons. I'm not sure. There's,
it's
when we talk to
okay, guys, because Israel is Hazukashi. No, because they hate Palestinians. They don't want to lose the narrative that Israel is the victim, because throughout history, that's what Israel claims, is that they are the victim. That Palestinian people are savages and more racist things that you can even think of, right? And then after Hamas became in power and started, retaliating back with violence, then they started crying about being the victims, like, oh my God, we killed their families, we stole their homes, we control how much water they can drink, and now they're retaliating with violence. We're the victims. We're the victims. And of course, what do Palestinians have? Nothing. 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 But the representation that Israel gets? It's the U.S., okay? It's the U.S. cult leaders that use Christianity as a weapon and just brainwash all of us. All of us. They control the narrative. The US controls the narrative. If the US were to investigate who killed Shireen and who did it and release that name during this critical time, chat, during this critical time, it would have started the gateway to modern Americans criticizing Israel earlier, way before the genocide, way before October 7th, a few months before October 7th, I believe. That's why it was kept, not because like, I hate it when people say stupid shit like that. Do you think they're embarrassed? You think that they're a little hassy-gashy? Guys? He's like, no, it's definitely political reasons. Because politics involves people's livelihood, chat. Jesus Christ.
Senator Van Hollen, he has read the report and he's called for it to be declassified. I drive myself crazy with this, is that people think they understand. People think they know what happened with Shireen's shooting, but they don't, right? Like, the narrative has been so obscured by the Israeli obfuscation that even like the top US officials that worked on this, I don't think really understand what happened that day.
I think they do. They're just hiding it. We got Al Jazeera, Wall Street guy. We've already seen it many times now, chat. When was this published? This was published 6 months ago. Okay, this was, and then the recorded date that it showed on the top left-hand corner, it said it was January 2025. So, chat, let me tell you something. This is already like over a year or two, right? Basically 2 years? Was it 2022? Or 2023 when October 7th happened? I guess it was 2023. 4-5, yeah, that's 2 years after, almost 2 years after, you know, October 7th. At this point, there's enough evidence to see that there's genocide. I just don't understand the excuse that these people fucking always give to political leaders. It's like, oh, maybe they just don't know. No, they know. Why? Stop using passive language. You have to admit that they're hiding shit. And to those who don't know, you should be asking, how the fuck don't you know? It's been 2 years since October 7th happened. We know for sure now that Israel is committing genocide. There's just too much evidence. If you don't know, you're lying to yourself. And or lying to the people.
I want to hear from somebody who was closer to it on the Israeli side.
Yeah, so one of the best people that can do that is this guy, El Hulata, who was the national security advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who was the prime minister when Shireen Abu Akleh was killed. So he was in the room when they were responding to this crisis. You know, one of the most famous things that happened was the prime minister put out this
armed Palestinians responsible for the unfortunate death of the journalist.
Suggested that Palestinians had killed her. It was a video of these Palestinian gunmen, remember?
So this is something that Israel does a lot, is that they try very terribly, by the way, they try to cosplay as Palestinians. It's not even cosplay. They basically do these racist depictions of Palestinians. They try to dress up as them and then claim that's a Palestinian. They try to frame Palestinians by dressing up as them, speaking in shitty Arabic. Is that how you say it? And you can tell, I can't tell, but like people who speak Arabic, can tell that it's an Israeli soldier trying to speak their language and failing at it miserably, because they have such a thick accent. And filming these false narratives to try to trick the media and, I guess, politicians, which is stupid to even say, into thinking that Palestinians are committing crimes, when in fact it's just an IOF soldier trying to justify their crimes by framing Palestinians as bad. So what does this tweet say? This is from the Prime Minister of Israel. Oh shit. And this one's on May 11th, 2022. Jesus Christ. So a few months before October 7th even happened, right? Oh no, wait, or a year. Jesus Christ, chat. I'm so sorry. When did October 7th happen? Was it 2022 or 2023? Can someone help me look that up? Let me see. Here, I can look it up on here. I just gotta fucking make sure of this. Was it 2023? Right? What year did... Okay, Kaizen says 2023 though, so I'll take your word for it. 2023. No, Yep. Wait. On user... Yep. 2023 it says right there. Hi. Okay. So a little over a year then. The Prime Minister of Israel was like, Palestinians in Jenin were even filmed boasting we hit a soldier. He's lying on the ground. However, no IDF soldier was injured, which increases the possibility that Palestinian terrorists... Jesus Christ. You see this shit, chat? You see this? Palestinian terrorists. A ver. That Palestinian terrorists were the ones who shot the journalist. No. They're lying. They're trying to cover their crime by framing Palestinians. Again, this is racist, by the way, chat. This is racist. This is IOF soldiers cosplaying as Palestinians, okay? So, again, even the Prime Minister of Israel is participating. I mean, of course he is, but during this time, people wouldn't have thought of that. The Prime Minister of Israel was creating propaganda to justify and hide the crimes of their soldiers.
Shooting down an alleyway, and they were like, there's a high likelihood that she was killed by Palestinian gunmen.
Hello. I don't remember the Prime Minister ever coming out and saying that video was wrong.
I don't think the video was wrong.
I
think it was, clearly it was, it's a genuine video.
But the impression was that was the place where they were shooting down an alleyway, and that they might have hit her at that incident.
Yeah.
And they showed, people went to that alleyway and showed there was no way that they could have been shooting at Shireen.
I cannot refer to that.
He can't refer to it, chat. He can't refer to it.
This is how they viewed it at the time.
Shrugs.
Hours after Shireen's killing, a top Israeli general told the Americans it was very likely an Israeli soldier had killed her, even though they were blaming her death publicly on Palestinian gunmen.
Diane, I think it's important that we try to figure out what was being said inside the Biden administration and the State Department when Shireen was killed, and what they were thinking, what they were trying to find out from Israeli officials, right?
Yeah. Well, like everybody that I've talked to has said, if you want to find that out, you talk to this guy, Andrew Miller.
Sorry to be late. No worries. Thanks for coming. My pleasure. Connor.
The IDF written report, what it says is, Ms. Abu Akleh was accidentally hit by IDF gunfire fired towards suspects identified as armed Palestinian gunmen. during an exchange of fire. But that's not accurate, is it?
It's nearly 100% certain that an Israeli soldier, likely a sniper, fired the shot that killed, or the shots that killed Shireen Abu Akleh. Based on all the information we have, it is not credible to suggest that there were targets either in front of or behind Shireen Abu Akleh. The fact that the official Israeli position remains that this was a case of crossfire. The entire episode was a mistake, as opposed to potentially a mistaken identification or the deliberate targeting of this individual, points to, I think, a broader policy of seeking to manage the narrative.
And did these Israelis ever make the soldier available to the U.S. to talk about it?
No.
And the Israelis were not willing to present that person for even informal questioning.
The U.S. had requested to interview the Israeli soldier, and Israel never made him available. Why not? Why not?
Because Israel isn't a very good and trustworthy investigative mechanism, and we provided all of the materials to the Americans.
I think this is part of Israel's
What?
insistence that they can investigate these situations themselves and outside parties don't have any role to play. But we're still left with the question of, why did this IDF soldier fire that shot?
Did Prime Minister
We know
Bennett ever have any
why.
conversations with President Biden about Shireen Abu Akleh that you remember?
Not that I recall.
So there was never a direct conversation where Biden discussed it with the Prime Minister?
Not that I recall, but again, I can't be certain.
Jesus
about that.
Christ. So Biden didn't even talk to the prime minister? And now he's like, oh, well, but I'm not sure though, Lamau. Okay, I'm sure that Biden didn't even try to talk to the prime minister to have justice be fucking served. Don't you see how insane that is, chat? Yet you have like a bunch of people shilling for Biden and Kamala. A lot of people are pissed that Trump is president, and you know who they blame instead of like Biden and Kamala's like incompetence? They blame people like me who didn't vote for Kamala. Okay. I didn't vote for Trump either. I don't even understand why people assume I vote for Trump when I say that. Oh, I didn't vote for Kamala. Or think I voted third party. I didn't vote for third party because I didn't see anyone who was trustworthy enough for my vote. Can you believe that, chat? I couldn't trust anyone with my vote. I think as a fucking goddamn American, it's my goddamn right to protest what my options are by not voting. Okay, there has to be fucking consequences. But Americans think that they deserve to not suffer, yet everyone else outside of the US should suffer. Hello? Okay, well, with that mentality, you're going to live a shit life and have your life be more shit. Because eventually actions do have consequences. Not for rich people, but for you. And if you don't do anything about it, if you don't fucking put the rich people in their place, fucking France style, then, you know, it's gonna hurt you. But people spend way too long condemning those speaking for Palestine and against leaders who are enforcing death of Palestinians. Way too long. People spent way too long on that. And that's what I'm saying. For me, it's believable that Biden didn't even try, didn't even fucking care. Didn't he spend most of his career like shilling for Israel anyway? Like, he was an Israeli asset for many years, his entire career. I can't understand why people do all like fight about politics in a way that it makes it seem like it's football, like you're rooting for a team instead of, like, you know, rooting for humanity, focusing on, you know, is this gonna benefit me and my family? Are we gonna be okay? You know, if the party I voted for continues to hurt me or not help me, am I gonna criticize that politician, that leader, that party, that fucking US president? No, not many people still to this day don't do that. You know, right now everyone is criticizing Trump, obviously, because it's easy to. He's already made himself the bad guy. He's so happy to be the bad guy as long as he's, like, you know, as long as he looks good doing it. He doesn't, by the way. He's ruined a lot of shit. The whole world is pissed at him, especially Americans. But why don't we have that same energy for Biden is my question. Or Kamala. He didn't even call the prime minister. Allegedly. And that should piss you the fuck off. How can that not be an endorsement or the first seeds to just allow a full-scale genocide to happen in Palestine? How?
Remember every conversation. This wasn't a topic between the president and the prime minister.
Why? Oh my God.
The day Shireen was killed, the Biden administration took a hard line and called for the shooter to be prosecuted. But when it became clear an Israeli soldier was likely responsible, the American tone shifted. Gone was talk of prosecuting the shooter. Instead, the U.S. started making vague calls for accountability.
I think there was a genuine and sincere desire at the outset to get to the bottom of what happened. But, you know, unfortunately, there obviously wasn't justice in the sense of any type of legal process.
It soon became clear we needed more help finding the Israeli shooter. So I reached out to a close colleague in Israel.
All right, what do you got for us?
Well, I have a contact in Duvdeban. I have received confirmation that he was on the scene and he participated in the operation that saw the death of Shireen.
Oh, he agreed to, this guy's actually agreed to talk?
Huh?
Yeah, well, he's agreed to speak with me.
Amazing.
Duvdeban means cherry in Hebrew, and the unit considers themselves so elite, they call themselves the cherry on top of the special operations dessert. The only scrap of information we had about the shooter was that he was a member of Duvdeban. So Ari and I began reaching out to people connected to the unit.
Bro shot
With
at
Ari
the wall.
investigating in Israel,
okay.
we keep pressing American officials for information about the shooting.
One of the people who's worked to hold the Biden administration the most to account has been Senator Van Hollen.
He's really been one of the most vocal politicians and certainly the loudest senator about getting the information in this report released to the public. And we know what he's read in that report. It makes him angry.
He's pushed repeatedly to try and get the Biden administration to release it, and they've refused. And he said he thinks that there's nothing in this report that shouldn't be out there for the American people to see.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to President Biden directly about Shireen Abu Akleh?
I have raised the issue of Shireen with him directly, and I've pointed to a letter that I sent to him where, along with many of my colleagues, we asked for the declassification of the Fenzel report on the shooting death, on the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. We've not gotten a response to that letter, and I've been quite clear that I think that this is an area where the president has not effectively used American influence.
And the U.S. and not just you, but also the Biden administration was pushing Israel to change the rules of engagement. And what was the Israeli response?
Well, we've seen no change in the rules of engagement. In fact, when the Biden administration called for changes in the rules of engagement after the killing of Shireen, we got a very public brush off. We're not going to change them. And in my view, the failure to have changed those rules of engagement has meant more people, innocent people, have gotten killed, including other American citizens.
How did those discussions go on the rules of engagement?
That's also true. Like, even before Shireen, there has been other American citizens or citizen killed, and the U.S. still didn't do anything about it. And then after Shireen's, again, assassination, more Americans who went to Palestine to either document or help the Palestinian people through nonprofit organizations like feeding children and stuff, they were killed as well. So they didn't do shit, chat. Nothing. Nada. They continued to not do anything to defend American citizens, to hold Israel accountable. They just kept brushing it off. I mean, I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's not. It's pretty believable. It's pretty believable. Let's be for real. It frustrates me that people keep trying to lie to themselves about it. Like, a lot of Americans just refuse to see that as a reality, and if they do, they think it's okay. They're brainwashed.
The Israelis insisted that the IDF soldier who likely fired the shot was acting consistently with the rules of engagement.
But there was no change in Israeli rules of engagement because of Shireen Abu Akleh's death?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you think that the U.S. failure to hold Israel to account for killing Shireen Abu Akleh contributed to the deaths of other Americans and journalists in the West Bank, Gaza, and Lebanon?
I do believe that if the United States had been more effective and more forceful in insisting that the rules of engagement changed after the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh, that we could have avoided the deaths of these other Americans and other civilians.
Palestinians.
I mean, these are American citizens. It shouldn't matter whether this is an American citizen on the West Bank, in Israel, or anywhere else in the world. And the fact that you see such difficulty getting accountability in the cases of the deaths of American citizens, it just tells you how much harder it is to get accountability in the deaths of other civilians, Palestinian civilians.
To be crude about it, it's often like Israel is giving the big FU to America on these kinds of issues.
I have said on American television that that is effectively the case, that, Prime Minister Netanyahu is giving the finger to President Biden.
And you know what President Biden did? He sucked on that finger. That's what pisses me off, chat. We are cucked. He is cucked. Trump is cucked. Let's stop being cucks. Like, what is this?
The Biden administration claimed it couldn't say if the shooter intentionally killed Shireen because of Israel's refusal to provide access to the shooter. But
shouldn't that be suspicious? Why is that even allowed? Why is it allowed for a country to hide information on an assassination on one of your goddamn American citizens? How is that legal? I don't understand. That's such a bullshit explanation. How is that legal?
It was always clear American officials knew more than they were saying publicly. After months of trying, I finally found a key Biden administration official who was willing to pull back the cover on the U.S. investigation. Based on everything that the U.S. was able to find out about Shireen Abu Akleh's killing, what was the initial conclusion?
The evidence as it stands based upon the proximity of the reporters in the road and the soldiers from the Dudavon units on the street, it was an indication that it was an intentional killing of, at this point in time, Shireen Abu Akleh. Whether or not they knew it was her or not can very well be debated, but they would have absolutely known that it was a media person or non-combatant at a minimum that person shot and killed.
This soldier knew that it was someone in the media and intentionally opened fire and killed her.
Absolutely knew that it was non-combatant, and every indication was that it was media, because it was clear within all optics from that distance and location, and the visual capabilities of that day.
So your belief is that that soldier looked down his scope and could see the blue vest and that it said press?
That is my belief, yes. So it changed ultimately to be that it was a tragic accident versus being an intentional killing of the individual.
That's shocking to hear.
Well, ultimately, I think what it came down to was different pressure within the administration to not try to anger the government of Israel too much by trying to force their hand at saying that they'd intentionally killed a U.S. citizen.
To go from saying something is an intentional killing to a tragic accident is night and day.
It's just, I'm getting too angry listening to this. I can't do it, chat. It's just, I feel like it. It's just. The evidence is there, and we're just listening to people regurgitate dumbass excuses. Like, in the end, there hasn't been any justice served. God. But we gotta know who killed her, right? Ay, ay, ay. I thought there would be... Since I saw it was a recent documentary, I thought there would be more of her, you know, humanizing her. Oh, and the whistleblower goes public. So, yeah, they do. Oh my God, they actually do name who killed her. I'm assuming towards the end, they're just like showing the process of it. Jesus Christ. Okay, I gotta push through then. I don't know. I got too angry, chat. Wait, what happened? Where did it go?
Was different pressure within the administration to not try to anger the government of Israel too much by trying to force their hand at saying that they'd intentionally killed a U.S. citizen.
To go from saying something is an intentional killing to a tragic accident is night and day.
It absolutely is.
They didn't want the killing of an American journalist to upset relations between America and Israel.
That's correct. At least not in the terms to say that the Israelis.
I mean, it's not like they still didn't do anything about it.
Would you say that the Israeli military has a kind of a operation philosophy of shoot first, ask questions later?
I would say that the IDF has that their basic premise. So when they go into an operation, we've seen it on video, we've seen it in numerous reports as well, that when they go in, they'll
crazy.
not be concerned about the additional folks that might be killed that happen to be innocent bystanders. It's they're going to engage what they think their target is, and if anyone else comes into that target area, to them they become a target, even if they happen to be
They just shoot anything
non-combatant.
or anyone.
You think the soldier who fired that shot would be convicted of murder, essentially?
I think that in a court of law,
He
it'd
should
easy
be.
to see beyond a reasonable doubt that the soldier should have been able to identify Shireen Abu Akleh, at least as media chose not to do so and intentionally engaged to kill her. That individual would be able to be convicted of manslaughter or third-degree murder based upon the fact that it was an intentional killing of a non-combatant.
Manslaughter.
Would you say that the Biden administration failed Shireen Abu Akleh?
Yes.
I would say so. The U.S. should have absolutely come forward and actually pressed the fact that
Yes.
an American citizen was killed intentionally by IDF.
But they didn't do anything. That's what's the worst about this.
Hey, it's Ari.
He's calling?
Yeah. I'm gonna put him on speaker. Hey, Ari?
Hi, Dion.
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's all right. Connor, you there?
Hey, what's up?
All is good. Have something of an interesting development
What's up?
to share. So there was one contact. He told me that he's just got out of Gaza.
Wow.
And we got to talk, but he was very well acquainted with someone who was there that day, who participated in the operation. After a little while, he seemed to suggest that this person he was talking about was actually the shooter.
Really?
Huh?
But here's the twist.
What? Tell us. Okay. What?
I think we've gotten as much as we're going to get out of officials here in Washington.
We got to talk to Fatima, and we got to talk to people who are eyewitnesses. We just have to go over to Israel.
Oh shit, they went there? How were they allowed? That's crazy. Okay.
Before meeting with Ari, we wanted to see with our own eyes where Shireen was killed and get a first-hand account of what happened
In
that
Jerusalem.
day. Shireen wasn't the
shit.
only person shot. Her
Fuck.
producer, Ali, was also
Please,
hit by an Israeli
Tama!
bullet.
Tama, you dumb fuck! Oh god, sorry chat.
So how long do you think it's going to take us to get up there?
On a
It
good
was
day, it's an
censored
hour and a
though.
half.
It was censored.
But now the checkpoints are all over
My
the
bad,
West
though.
Bank. It's not just in Jenin or around Jenin because of a military operation. So we're going to have to deal with each one as we get there because it's changing every minute.
Or maybe I should just... Fuck.
Here, amazing.
Maybe I should just show my logo on it.
The challenge with meeting Ali is that he's in Jenin, the city where Shireen was killed. Usually, it's a bustling Palestinian city. Today,
like this,
it's a ghost town.
If we want to go
Is that
to
enough
the site
censor?
where Shireen was killed, we need to go down that road, and that's the road, unfortunately, that is leading to
I
the
don't think
single
it is,
checkpoint
honestly.
where the Israeli military is not allowing people.
This is live in the camp, just basically right outside here. And we've heard at least 2 or 3 explosions so far, right?
Yeah.
And we can hear the drones going overhead, right? Yeah.
Didn't stop. It didn't stop. And we're still waiting for Ali to come. I hope that he could make it to us.
يعطيك العافية علي. شكرا كثير إنه عم تلتقي معنا بعد هذا اليوم الطويل. Thank you very much for meeting us.
She is translating.
We are set up here now, even though it's
we were supposed to meet at the location where you got injured and Shireen got killed.
We're 5 minutes from the location in Meydan El Awda, near the site of the martyr Shireen's death. But you could get killed in 5 minutes it takes to get there. You could be hit by army bullets. They might even arrest you. So things are even worse, by the way. They can't even go there and see what happened because they'll either be arrested or killed. But it's nearly impossible to get there because it's a closed military zone. And there are snipers stationed over the house. Any Palestinian who approaches this area will be fired on. I believe the real disaster was the occupation wasn't punished. I believe that the real... Oh, wait. And that allowing these crimes to be repeated was due to the neglect and indifference of many institutions, especially American ones, which continue to defend the occupation and its crimes. In general, this is not a dangerous site or known for armed clashes. When you met there on the 11th of May, 2022, do you remember why you told them to meet there? What was the setting of the location? We usually go to the safest place as possible. That's because our own safety matters more than the coverage, so we can talk and film freely. Therefore, we have to be in a safe space. When we got there, Shireen started to get ready to move forward. So I and fellow reporters from Jenin who knew the area well were all in touch and watched videos to track Israeli army movements so we could decide the safest location. We chose this particular side road next to Al-Awada roundabout. There was no armed confrontations, not even stone throwing. There was no Palestinians. How do you remember this day and how did it affect your work? How did it affect your coverage? At that time, the occupation was preparing for a dangerous scenario in the Jenin refugee camp. That's why they didn't want any witnesses. They opened fire on us to kill us both, and also to terrorize us so we couldn't return to the Jenin refugee camp. From the moment Shireen was killed, I said and will always continue to say that this bullet was meant to stop the Palestinian media, documenting and exposing their crimes. So this is September 22nd, 2024. Wow.
This is the main roundabout. This is Al Manara Square. And that's Al Jazeera's office. Shireen's office was right there. It's closed now. We can go up and see the door, but it's welded. We cannot go in. And
The Israeli military came in, right, and shut it down?
They did.
Wow.
As you can see, it's a lot. Israel is now the most dangerous country in the world to be a journalist. Israel was never in that category before until Shireen and until what's happened over the last year and a half.
Yeah. Well, saying this and seeing this reflected in numbers is good, but it still doesn't depict the fear that this has instilled inside me as a journalist. I'm not trying to play brave or pretend that I am going to be like, I'm a mother also. I'm a human being. I'm a Palestinian. I happen to live in this country and I'm doing my best to survive. But with every movement, I feel like every day can be my last. I don't know if you can imagine this, but I feel like every day can be my last. The thing is not about taking precautions because we saw what Shireen did. Shireen, Ali, Mujahid, Shaba, we saw what they did. It was clear they took all precautions and they still got shot at. And we lost Shireen that day.
Yeah.
Do you do anything differently
in how you operate in these areas after Shireen's death, do you think?
I don't think that I do things differently in my work, but I do things differently as a mother now.
Really? Like
As
what?
a mother?
I hug my children more often. I always kiss them before I leave because it might be the last time. You never know.
Shireen's death didn't just impact journalists. It left a huge hole in her family and her community.
وجميع الراقدين على رجاء القيامة من هذه العائلة.
قدوس الذي لا يموت ارحمنا. قدوس الله قدوس القوي قدوس الذي لا يموت ارحمنا.
قدوس الله
قدوس القوي قدوس الذي لا يموت ارحمنا.
بصلوات أبائنا القديسين أيها الرب يسوع
For so many people, Shireen was like the voice of Palestine, you know? What was she to you? Like, how do you think of her?
Oh, Shireen was everything, you know. She was not only a sister, she was everything. The whole generation grew up watching Shireen and listening to her reports.
That's her
so
brother.
I think she left a mark in a whole generation. Lots of people see me and they tell me, you know, we grew up watching Shireen.
Definitely not enough of
only
a
in Palestine,
censor
but
effort.
everywhere I go.
Imogen!
I get this
Hello, by the
a lot.
way.
I think she will be remembered as the voice of peace or reporter of peace. Well, that's what she did. She just reported on stories that happened and took place here in Palestine.
We met in Washington, D.C. with Senator Van Hollen, who, as you know, has been very strong.
Very supportive, yeah.
And he said very clearly that the Biden administration's failure
look
to
at
hold
him,
Israel to
Chet.
account for Shireen's death has led to the deaths of more Americans.
Like,
and
you
more
can tell he's
journalists.
still hurt
If Biden
by what happened
administration
to his
took any,
sister.
strong stand and actions, this would have never happened. You know, people have the right to demonstrate, and of course, the journalists have the right to report from wherever there is something ongoing. And targeting, especially when they know they are Americans, targeting them, that's really worrying when the administration doesn't take anything. That's a green light to go ahead and do more and more. Definitely it wasn't an accident. You know, Shireen had full gear. The helmet and the vest, armored vest.
Very easy to
clearly
see.
written press on it, and they still targeted it in a deadly spot. 16 bullets in 3 volleys, they were shot at her. If that was not a targeting, I don't know what is a targeting, but when you shoot 16 bullets, head level and chest level, what do you expect? You're not trying to alarm them or warn them.
They shot
You're
at her
trying
16
to
times.
kill or assassinate someone.
Something you said, you know, a month after she was killed about if they kill Shireen.
Yeah. Anybody could be killed just because the killer is an Israeli soldier. And this is really scary. You know, they get out, they can do anything, and they are never held accountable. So it can happen to anyone. And we've seen what happened lately in Gaza. More than 200 journalists were targeted and killed, and no action is taken. Nothing.
One of the things we're trying to do is to find the Israeli soldier who fired the shot. What would you say to that soldier if you could?
Well, you know, I would just say why. Why would they do something like this to a beautiful person? You know, she never caused any harm to anyone.
I've hit a bunch of dead ends trying to find the shooter. Like, all the State Department people I thought would know. They're not saying anything. How's it going on your end?
So it's been some 2 weeks of fishing around. I have one contact who's been a long-standing member of the Duvdevan unit, and he gave me a few numbers. So I reached out to a few of them. So this first soldier refused to speak.
Not that surprising.
And the second figure,
of course,
was apparently acquainted with people who were there at the scene of the event, began speaking to me, and he told me that a close friend of his was there that day. And I had the sense while talking to him that this soldier was more than just a friend, and his role that day was more than just some sort of assistance. So I asked him, frankly, if this soldier happened to be the shooter. And after a long silence, he said yes.
Did he give any other information?
I was very reluctant to push him on the topic. And so instead, I decided that it would be best to set up a private meeting with him.
When is that something that can happen, like in the next couple of days?
It's something that I think can happen tomorrow.
Oh God. From what I saw,
Did you ever talk to the
they
guy who
actually
fired
named the
shots?
guy.
Yeah, I know in person.
Oh my God.
There's something special about this case because it wasn't like an issue. He wasn't happy like, hey, I killed Germans. Of course, but it wasn't like, beating himself from the inside, like thinking about, oh, what have I done or something like that. You open the corner and you'll be second to take a decision, take a shot. And
Jesus Christ.
Camera
They
or
really
something
don't
that,
want to know who the
pointed
snitch
you.
is. Like,
More than that, they shoot the bullet.
that's
Say,
crazy.
the guy that shot this shot, he's dead already.
He's dead? Scagio.
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 Scagio. Alone. Wait.
Scagio alone.
Alone. Scagio.
Holy shit, we got a name. It was unbelievable.
That was absolutely wild.
The question is it the right name? We have every reason to believe him because of his relationship with the unit and his knowledge of the unit, but
the thing is, so like I looked him up. I looked him up while we was talking.
yeah.
And he said he was killed in Gaza, and the reports in the Israeli media say he was killed in Jenin, and that he's not in Duvdevan.
Yeah. So how is this our guy then?
I mean, Israel also has a tendency to lie about Israelis dying to garner more sympathy, or I'm assuming in this case to protect the guy. Maybe he changed his identity, maybe? But they have reported on supposed deaths to demonize Hamas, right? And then it turns out the people that were supposedly dead are still alive. Saying, hey, I'm not dead, Lamau, you know? Huh.
See if we can find anything about him. Ari online.
What are you looking for exactly?
Well, we want to find something that shows that anything that shows that he was with Duvdevan, because there's nothing in his obit about it.
And he died. He died in that other unit.
Yeah, exactly.
Under a different name.
Is this anything? This looks like it's in Hebrew. I can't tell if this is about him.
Oh, because he speaks it.
So the name of the website is Sipur Chayai, which means like story of my life. It has his name, Alon Scagio. And this is a page dedicated to his memory.
Hold on, I want to see this. I want to see it. Can we pull it up on the computer?
Yeah.
See if there's anything about Duvdevan in there.
There we go.
Okay.
See if there's something about Duvdevan.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
There it is.
Hold on. Hold on. So it says here, after talking about his sweet tooth for chocolate, on December 10th, 2020, Alon joined Duvdevan. There's more. After completing a 14-month comprehensive training course as a combat soldier and sniper in Team 90, he was deployed to the West Bank for 8 months, participating in numerous counterterrorism operations. Upon completion of his combat service, Alon successfully graduated from the officers training school and was assigned to command the snipers team in the elite unit Kharov. So this is an attempt to explain how he died under a different unit.
Right.
He graduated from officers training school and was assigned to command. This was a promotion out.
Yep. And none of this is in the official report of his death, which says he was in a different unit. They wiped this out of the official release when he was killed.
Correct.
So even though he was in another unit when he was killed,
he was still identifying.
He identifies as a Duvdevan person.
Correct.
Except for he's not in that unit anymore. Presumably because of the shooting of Shireen, he was promoted.
This piece of shit, chat. This is the guy who killed Shireen. Ugly ass motherfucker too. Jesus Christ. I mean, at least, look. You know who brought things to justice? Hamas, chat. And he still ended up killing, I'm assuming, more civilians, children. I don't know. He probably had his fun in Palestine before he was eventually killed. But that's fucking insane that Israel still protected him in death. They refused to show the evidence. The evidence. The official report on his death didn't show that he was part of the group that he was in, the specific group that was in the area where Shireen was, and eventually who killed her. That's crazy. Israel, like, literally, even in death, was protecting him. God, why do they always look this ugly? Because they kill people. Like, that's what happens, bro.
Well, I guess, you know, they would have presumably, they had to distance him from the unit.
Right.
But they also had to discipline him in such a way as to not anger the unit, probably.
Right. I can't believe that we can find this information.
But not the U.S.
The White House, the Biden administration couldn't. The State Department doesn't have this information. But this is all stuff that we were able to put together.
Jesus fucking Christ. After talking to a second Israeli soldier, they confirmed that Alon Skagio, whatever the fuck his name was the shooter that killed
Fatima?
Shireen.
I think we've identified the shooter. We think...
Like the person who did it?
Yeah.
Name and everything.
We went to see this guy. We were trying to press him on a name that we heard. He's like, no, it's Alon Skagio. It's Alon Skagio.
So thank you guys. This is amazing.
Skagio.
This is really amazing. Thank you.
Alon Skagio, chat. Remember.
After Alon died, his unit was so upset about the fact that his name had been stained by killing Shireen that they started using her photograph for target practice.
Oh my God. That's how they knew. Oh my God.
Went up to the military cemetery in Hadira, where
like they couldn't fucking hide it. So I mean, they could, but amongst themselves, no, they were proud of it. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I want to see if there's really evidence of the Devon unit. I'm still struck by the fact that that connection isn't made in the public statement.
Yeah.
But based on everything we know about him, he was a proud member of the unit. So this whole section is the newest soldiers, it looks like, that have died.
So he was killed.
Yeah, fuck him.
June 27th.
What's this one?
Yeah.
This is him?
This is him. Scott Gill. 27th, it's the same day.
I think despite what the press release said, he's definitely a member of Devon based on what we're seeing here.
Definitely, he was part of Devon.
Yeah, there's cherries all over the fucking casket.
You know, we came to find the shooter. We found the shooter. We found his friends. You know, there's a lot of irony in the fact that he fell in Jenin, where Shireen was killed, where he killed Shireen.
So he also died in Jenin.
We set out on this journey to find out who
Good
killed
riddance.
Shireen, and we did. We did what the U.S. government failed to do.
The U.S. government refused to do.
Israeli soldiers told us Alon Skagio killed Shireen, and the Israeli government covered it up.
Yep.
There was no crossfire. The Biden administration failed Shireen Abu Akleh, and more Americans and many more journalists have died as a result.
Yeah, as a result, yep. This could have been prevented. That's what I've been saying, chat.
How was Shireen's killing and everything that's happened changed how you operate here as a journalist?
It's definitely hurt me.
I honestly thought they weren't going to find the name. That's why I was about to click out, because I was like, this seems too dramatic. They're not even focusing on Shireen too much, you know? I doubt they even have the name. No, they did have the name. I didn't think they'd actually find the guy.
It has definitely instilled fear in me. I am afraid. And I'm afraid of being a journalist.
What the fuck? Okay, respect for finding who killed her, but what the fuck are those shades? Take them off right now.
And no Palestinian journalist can tell you that they can make dinner plans.
That's scary.
Yes, but also it is a reality. It's
A reality,
Shireen's
yeah.
killing specifically. That was a moment that changed our lives. You start realizing that they're not just trying to kill Palestinian journalists physically. They're also trying to
their will.
pose doubt on our words. We are not credible enough. We are not good enough as journalists. And that's not true. That is not true. We're going to keep doing this. Nothing can stop us because, to be honest, one of the things that Shireen's death, Shireen's killing has taught me is that it's only your integrity, your professional integrity, and your status that is going to make you something, that is going to put some influence. Unfortunately, we had to lose her to learn that.
Yeah.
It was the hardest way of learning a lesson. And Shireen was this kind of person, those kind eyes, this smile, she was really this kind of person on camera and off camera. In her real life, in her worst days, I would say. She was a genuine person. And I think that this honesty was reflected in her work. And therefore, slowly, gradually, moment by moment, I don't think there was any intention of making her anything like a celebrity. I think it just came because she was there. And her professional integrity made her who she is to us. Because, and I say is because to me, she's still here.
Since Shireen's death in 2022, at least 8 Americans and more than 200 journalists have been killed by the Israeli military or Israeli settlers. Settlers who are civilians, by the way. The Israeli military declined to be interviewed for this film and also failed to respond to our inquiries. The FBI and the US State Department were also asked to respond to statements made in this film, but also failed to reply to our inquiries. On the 29th April 2025, Israel-Palestinian journalist Ali... Wait, what? Is he one of the prisoners right now? Wait, huh? Is he one of the prisoners? Israel arrested Palestinian journalist Ali Samoudi at his home in Jenin. Is he still in prison? April 25, 2025. That was last year, chat. Let me see. Ali Samoudi. Ali Samoudi. Wait, 3 days ago? He was... Chat, he was released last week. He was... Oh my god.
Journalist
Oh my god. They arrested him last year and he was just released last week. Okay, so chat, this is what he looked like during the documentary, okay?
Journalist Ali Samoudi reenacts what he endured in Israeli prisons. Guards pushing their boots on his neck and slamming his head into the floor. Ali was held for 1 year without charge or trial. He was given barely enough food to survive, no medicine, and faced continuous assaults. He says he saw death and torture, but that not everything he witnessed can be shared. The families of Palestinian prisoners do not need more reasons to worry about their loved ones, Ali says.
We were forced to sit like this and sometimes laid on the ground when the Israelis wanted to do the count.
This is how Ali says prisoners are taken to the clinic, a journey many try to avoid because of the assaults many report they endure along the way. A journalist since 1990, he was injured by Israeli fire several times. The latest incident was on May 11th, 2022. The day an Israeli sniper shot and killed Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. Clearly marked as press in an area with no active fighting, did not stop soldiers from targeting her. Ali was shot in the back.
Oh, they shot him too, by the way.
4 years later, no one has been held accountable, and Israel has killed at least 262 more journalists. Ali says the physical pain he endured from his injuries...
They don't say... Chat, that's how normalized bloodshed is now in killing Palestinians. They don't censor this no more.
Never compare to the psychological torture he felt in Israeli captivity.
I still can't sleep. I'm scared for the prisoners I left behind. 1 second or 1 minute could determine if you live or die, if they take you to the hospital or not.
These images are from Ali's release nearly 2 weeks ago, a face his family could barely recognize. The frail body of a diabetic who lost 60 kilograms, now battling several health complications.
60
Ali's daughter
kilograms.
Furat was with him when he was arrested. She says an Israeli soldier told her he was taking Ali on a short journey. That journey took a whole year. To cope, she says she wrote letters to her father that he can finally read.
Since his release, this is the first time Ali makes it back to his office. This is where he worked for decades, reporting on stories mostly about Palestinian prisoners and their suffering inside Israeli jails. He was very exposed to these reports and stories, but says this is the first time he personally feels what it means to be inside an Israeli jail.
Before his arrest last year, Ali was working on a story about the anniversary of Shireen's killing. In prison, he wasn't allowed to have a pen or paper. Now he'll get to finish it. He says he owes it to her and other colleagues to keep reminding the world that Israel's silencing of Palestinian journalists is systematic, intentional, and ongoing. Nida Ibrahim, Al Jazeera, Jenin, Palestine.
That's crazy. Ugh. But yeah, as you can see, well, now we know who killed Shireen, and now we know how, by remembering her, how she died, and I guess looking at this documentary as well, we can see how Israel protected that the guy who killed her till the very end, even after death. And you can see how these journalists from Al Jazeera and the Wall Street were able to identify who killed her. It's a slap to the face, okay? To anyone who cared about Shireen and anyone who cares about, Palestinians. And it goes to show how Biden literally didn't give a fuck. Now, Shireen was killed on the 11th of May, which was about 4 days ago for me. But I get no, actually, what? 4 days ago for me, I don't know, because of time zones. I live in Japan, so I'm a day ahead. I think for you guys it was like 3 days ago. But this is actually one of her nieces remembering her. Lina Abu Akleh says, "Today marks 4 years since my aunt Shireen Abu Akleh was killed by an Israeli sniper in Jenin. An iconic journalist and one of the most empathetic and sweetest people. This is who they killed. She loved life, but they stole hers from her." It's just, like, think about it, chat. They shot at her 16 times, also wounding her colleague that we just saw was just released a week ago from Israeli prison. They shot her in the neck, and then they protected the shooter. They falsified information. They lied. And then they beat up her family members and friends who were holding her casket, almost dropping her own casket. And again, she's a Palestinian American. Shouldn't even matter, but I mean, America supposedly cares for their citizens. They don't. They let her killer get away with it, have a wonderful life killing people until he himself was killed in the same area where he killed Shireen. And America didn't do anything about it. They didn't even try to find who killed her after many years. Not even that many years, by the way. Not even that many years, like 3-4 years. The Biden administration didn't give a shit. They didn't even contact the prime minister. They refused to, the excuse they gave is that Israel didn't want to give information. So how can they investigate if Israel didn't give information? What do you mean? Shouldn't that show you that they did something bad? Why wasn't Israel punished for holding information? She was the first Palestinian American journalist to be killed, and it was the stepping stone to kill another over 200 journalists in Palestine and many more civilians, over 70,000 civilians in Palestine. And all because the US to this day refuses to hold Israel responsible for their actions. So the title of the stream was to remember Shireen, right? And then I guess we found out who killed her. But I guess looking at that documentary was very important because we were able to see even more clearly in detail how the US did nothing and how her death would lead to many more journalists being brutally killed. Her death just keeps on repeating many times. It's still remarkable to me that such a justification is enough for some people. I just want to find someone who genuinely hears they provided no information, so we can't investigate, and takes that as a legitimate answer. I want to study them. I mean, it's like saying, chat, if you have like witnesses if you have like a suspect and they refuse to answer, I mean, they have a right to not speak. But like, they have blood in their hands, the evidence shows that they did it. And then you say, but he didn't admit to it. The criminal didn't admit to their crime, therefore we can't prosecute them. That's stupid. That's dumb. Even by law, that doesn't even make sense. Because, you know, in America, like, people have the right to not say anything to the cops or to anyone. But if there is beyond unreasonable doubt that you committed the fucking crime, you don't have to admit that you did it. Imagine if we were just like, yeah, the evidence points to this guy, but he say he didn't do it. So shrug, I guess he's innocent. Hello? Shireen's death keeps repeating every day, and Israel keeps killing journalists from documenting their genocidal acts. And, you know, Palestine has officially lost over 70,000 people. Civilians, children, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, whole ass generations, families wiped out. And that, in that number, chat, 70,000, that does not include missing people, people who died of natural causes because of, for example, famine, not being able to eat, dying from the cold because their house was destroyed and they froze to death, or not being killed by the military. It doesn't include those people. Those who are missing are not included in that number. So the total of people being killed is way, 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 way higher. Okay? Way higher. And now Israel is trying to commit another genocide in Lebanon. We talked about how Israel blames Hezbollah for everything, and so when Hezbollah came into power and was one of the rare military forces that actually could fight back and retaliate against Israel whenever Israel tried to colonize Lebanon and gain power over Lebanon, Israel came up with the idea of putting pressure on Hezbollah by going all out and killing civilians and anyone else indiscriminately. And that tactic was so popular with Israel. It started in Lebanon, by the way. They decided to do that in Gaza, and look what happened. Not in Gaza, in Palestine. Everywhere in Palestine, all over Palestine. And look what has happened due to it. They keep trying to justify genocide or lie about it, and we need people like Shireen and other journalists to talk about it. But unfortunately, even in Lebanon, another person in Lebanon who was like Shireen, a beloved journalist in Lebanon named Amal Khalil was killed by a double tap strike. Okay? And before she was killed, She told everyone that she was getting death threats from Israel. Let's take a look at that. So this is from the Quds News Network. In her last interview, Lebanese journalist Amal Khalil revealed the direct death threats she received on her phone from the Israelis. They threatened to kill me. They would sever my head from my shoulders if I didn't leave South Lebanon. Despite the warnings, she refused to be silenced, saying she would not let the Israeli enemy dictate her reporting or impose its narrative on her own land. Yesterday, Amal Khalil was killed in a targeted Israeli strike in the southern village of Al-Tayr. Her colleague, photographer Zainab Farah, was seriously injured and remains in stable condition after emergency surgery. And her colleague, the other journalist girl that was with her, saw Amal's last moments, and she was seriously injured as well. I'm going to have to try to censor her colleague because she was really in bad shape. Last time I saw her giving her testimony from the hospital bed, by the way. It was intense, but let's read this. I will do my best to censor if needed. Mossad threatened journalist. When I used to turn on my car and go by myself sometimes, moving between two towns, I was aware of the risk of the possibility. Your blood... Whoa. Between these towns, I was aware of the risk of possibly your... Oh, it was the other guy who talked. Let me read that. That was so fast. Your blood is on your palm. Oh, okay. My blood is on my palm and I'm targeted. But what did I always say? People would tell me, leave it... Wow, it's so fast. People would tell me, leave it alone, and such. I'd say, I'm as equal as those people. I'd tell them, I'm not better than these people. This situation changed after 9/23 because I was starting from August 25th. I got a direct targeting threat on my phone from the Mossad, from the Israelis. They threatened me, death threats. Oh my god, chat, why didn't you fucking tell me that you couldn't even see the screen? Okay, there we go. Here, I'll zoom in. Okay. Literally means they said, we will separate your head from your shoulders. If you don't leave from the south, we advise you to get away from the south. And they even included messages, and it was many messages sent to my private phone that included personal information about me, just so they'd let me feel that we know about you, we know about you well. Not just random information. The first threat was sent on the 25th of August. The second threat arrived the day of the pager massacre. Oh, and that was, I believe that was like a year ago or two. I believe the pager massacre happened in Lebanon, where Israel literally planted bombs, self-destruct bombs, in pagers. And pagers are basically like little small squares where you can send simple messages to anyone who also owns a pager. And it's very old technology. A lot of like modern people wouldn't know about it. But the thing is that pagers are still used by doctors, you know, when they're going around and and providing care to patients in hospitals, they use pagers to communicate with other doctors and nurses in the building. And so they planted these pagers and it was sent to civilians. Apparently Israel's excuse was that they were trying to kill, terrorists, but it went out to the public. So when they fucking detonated the bombs and all of these fucking pagers, even a child was killed because she was with her father and the pager ended up exploding and, blasting him away, but killing his daughter immediately. A bunch of doctors were also killed. People who were civilians who owned this technology were seriously injured and or killed, especially, and I believe it was like a 9-year-old girl or 11-year-old girl, I can't remember, but it was terrifying when that first happened, because the implications of that, the implication of pagers being able to be programmed to set off and explode like a bomb, it also indicates that Israel is capable of doing that with our own technology, with my PC right now that I'm using, with your phone that you're using, with my iPad, with my Nintendo Switch, anything, my monitor. It can just be set off if it's programmed to. It can set off to kill people instantly like that. That was like the first time where I believe many people, including me, realized the implication of how easy it is to kill civilians in order to try to complete a political agenda or instill fear in civilians to cause as much damage as possible to break the morale of resistant fighters. That's terrifying. So she was also threatened after on the day or after the day of the pager massacre in Lebanon. They also repeated this threat. The third threat arrived, but not directly to me, and I was already continuing. The third threat reached 2 days before the 21st of September, 2 days before the aggression escalated. They called the newspaper and threatened. They said that if you don't prevent this new newspaper and the headquarters, all of it will be targeted. Meaning before September 23rd, I sure did not take any precautions and I didn't care to these threats, because I said if I do what they force me to do, well, why is it that they impose and force? The enemy wants to enforce on me their own narrative. They bring journalists on my ground and that promotes the narrative that they want and prevents me from moving on my own land. So she spoke of the many threats that she received. The many threats that she received throughout her career. I didn't even know that they were, I guess it would be obvious, but the fact that they even had the confidence to threaten her after the pager massacre, that's crazy. That's how, and why, chat? Why? Well, because the pager massacre happened. If she were to report on that, of course, that's not gonna help spread their narrative that they already suck at spreading at this point. And so, what did they do? What did they do on April 24th, I believe, or 23rd? They end up killing her. Brutally. Oh shit, no! Don't look at my TL. Don't do that, chat. They killed her brutally. And we're gonna watch
today
a 20-minute video on how they did it. And I'm just so afraid because her colleague, chat, I don't know if she's okay right now, but when I saw her, she was covered in, her whole body was covered in bandages. That poor woman. So her situation is pretty graphic, so I will censor when she pops up, if she pops out.
Threatened, tracked, and killed while reporting on Lebanon.
We can't get out. Somebody please contact the UN, contact UNIFIL, contact the Israelis. Like, we need help getting out of here. That help didn't come. What actually did come was another Israeli airstrike.
As another beloved journalist in Lebanon is killed by Israel, what hope is there for accountability? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take.
The Take.
Hey everyone. Before we go on with today's show, remember to leave us a comment telling us what you think about this episode and what stories you want us to do next. And if you're listening on a podcast app, leave us a review telling us where you're listening from and give us a 5-star rating while you're there. It helps other people discover the show.
Oh, yes. Hello, Club Blair. By the way, please read the pinned. And hello, my name is Tamashi. I'm a political commentator who focuses on human rights. Right now, we're learning about a recent Lebanese journalist that was killed, and we're watching a 20-minute video on it. And yes, someone, no one has ever noticed Mista on my screen, but I'm glad that you noticed him. Hello. Please read the pin and follow the rules on my About page. Gracias.
Heidi Pett. I am the Syria correspondent for Al Jazeera English.
That's crazy.
But at the moment, I've been reporting from Lebanon since the war started here.
No way.
So Heidi, welcome to The Take. It's really good to have you on. You and I are speaking on Thursday, just hours after you attended the funeral for Amal Khalil, who's a journalist who was killed by an Israeli strike in South Lebanon yesterday, in the middle of what is ostensibly a 10-day ceasefire between.
Yeah, the 10-day ceasefire that isn't a ceasefire that Israel keeps breaking because they will never listen, and the US lets them do whatever they want, of course. And she was killed a day ago from what they're saying. So this is April 25th as well. So I'm going to safely say that she was killed on April 24th, which is, around 2 weeks ago.
Between Israel and Lebanon. So let's start with who she was, because I know she'd been a journalist in Lebanon for many years and was a recognizable face for people there. But for people outside of the country, what can you tell us about her?
Yeah, so Amal Khalil was a really well-loved and respected journalist here. She is from South Lebanon. She has spent many years reporting on South Lebanon.
لليوم الخامس على التوالي لا تزال فرق الدفاع المدني تبحث عن مفقودين.
So not just during this war, but also during the 2024 war. She worked for a newspaper called Al Akhbar, and she was well known not just for her reporting, but also because she had received threats during the last war, actually, from an Israeli phone number, telling her that she should cease her work, that if she wanted to keep her head on her shoulders, in fact, that she should leave Lebanon.
Do we know who those threats were from?
Yeah, so I actually have the phone number, and I was speaking with the person who sent them to her. It's
what? Wait, what? Wait, get the guy. Get him. What? That's how easy they can contact these fuckers? Hello? Of course, we have to hear what she has to say, but the fact that she's like, oh yeah, I contacted the guy who threatened her life and now she's dead? What?
an Israeli sort of commentator and media personality. His
Huh?
name is Gal Gideon Ben Abraham. And
Gal
he was
Gideon ben Abraham. Remember that, Jet.
unrepentant, basically, about those threats. He kind of doubled down.
So
wait, what? He repented? I'm confused. Chat, listen, I'm just scared that this is Al Jazeera, right? I'm scared because sometimes these news outlets try to humanize obviously Israeli soldiers who commit crimes and threaten Palestinians and or kill them, and also in this case Lebanese people and Lebanese journalists. So now I'm like, okay, let's hear what they have to say. I hope that they're not trying to humanize this person. But okay, let's see.
He had been threatening her, and then she's killed in this strike while she was on location to do her job, to report with another journalist. So tell us about what happened. What do we know?
So what we know is that Amal and her colleague Zainab, who's a freelance photojournalist who she was working and traveling with that day, they were part of a convoy of vehicles. They were working in South Lebanon, covering the destruction and including the ongoing destruction and detonations during this ceasefire. And while they were driving through the town of Atiri, the car in front of them was hit by an Israeli strike. And there were two people in that car, two civilians who were both immediately killed, from what we understand. Now, Amal and Zainab then fled their vehicle. They got out of their car. And at that point, Amal sent a voice note to her family explaining what had happened, right? Saying, look, there's been a drone strike, but really trying to reassure them and saying, you can hear her voice shaking.
Jesus,
but you can also
those
hear
are
her
her
trying to reassure her loved ones and saying, like, I'm okay. But what happened after that is that they were kind of stuck. They were pinned down in this location, and they took shelter in a nearby building. So she was calling members of the civil defense who couldn't reach her because they didn't have permission through what's called the mechanism. So down here in southern Lebanon, civil defense, ambulances, and NGOs, they have to coordinate not just with the Lebanese army and Hezbollah, but also actually with the Israeli military. So they'll send a
The thing is, it's like they have to coordinate. Everyone keeps giving that excuse, by the way. We have to coordinate with the Israeli military, you know, and they try to. And once, usually how this happens, because at this point I'm used to what Israel does for a living. After they're allowed to coordinate, that's when Israel, you know that Israel has already killed the victims. And I say this because this is what happened to Hind, chat. The little 5-year-old who had her family car was hit by a tank, I believe. No. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Her family car was shot at, like over many times, I forgot how many bullets were shot at. I'm assuming over 100 bullets was shot at the car. Everyone in the car died except this little 5-year-old. She saw everyone was dead in the car. She was alone. So what happened is that she calls the emergency services in Palestine. She explains her situation, and is crying because she's also bleeding, she's also injured, but her family is dead. The call operators try to calm her down and try to tell her, hey, help is on the way. But the ambulance needs to coordinate with Israel to be allowed in that area and save this little girl. Well, what happened? The ambulance goes, they finally get permission to go and save this girl. Israel knows that the paramedics, the ambulance is heading her way. They go, we don't hear anything about Hind, and we don't hear anything about the ambulance that went to go save her. People go themselves, civilians go, journalists go to the area where the ambulance went. They see the car, and they had killed Hind and also shot the ambulance that went to go save her with a tank. Everyone that went to go save her was killed, including Hind, and Hind was shot at multiple times. So again, this coordination attempt, I feel, should be completely void, because why coordinate when Israel already violated humanitarian, international, every law possible? Why do you still need to coordinate to save someone? We just heard earlier that they killed 2 civilians in front of Amal and her colleague. In this case, I feel like this is a coordinated execution for her. Because it just, logically speaking, how can you be like, okay, we need to work with Israel, make sure they stop and they don't kill you, and allow us to go save you? It's just not fucking... That's not what happens. You cannot coordinate with Israel. They don't listen to reason. They don't care. They will try to do as much damage as possible.
Notification and say, we want to go to this village, or we need to access this location, there's people trapped. And sometimes eventually they'll respond and say, okay, received, we understand where you're going. They'll never really guarantee your safety, but they'll at least acknowledge that they've received your message. But the civil defense teams didn't have any acknowledgement, and there were ongoing Israeli strikes. So what happened is that Amal and Zainab, they were messaging and on the phone back and forth with civil defense, who were telling them, we can't get to you, but can you get to us? And so they went back towards the car to try to leave. And at that point, an Israeli drone actually dropped a grenade on them and injured Amal and damaged the car as well. And so they ran back into a different building. And again, they were taking shelter there. So that was at around sort of a bit after 3 o'clock in the afternoon by this point. And again, at that point, we've got messages back and forth between Amal and her family and civil defense. And also she was contacting her editors at the newspaper, desperately saying, I'm stuck here. There's Israeli strikes. We can't get out. Somebody please contact the UN, contact UNIFIL, contact the Israelis. Like, we need help getting out of here. That help didn't come. What actually did come was another Israeli airstrike, which targeted the house where Amal and Zainab were hiding. Now, they had actually split up at this point. They were hiding in separate parts of the house, maybe knowing or expecting that something like this might happen, and so hoping that one of them would survive.
And that's exactly what happened. As far as we know right now, what do we know about the status and condition of Amal's colleague, Zainab Faraj?
Yeah, so the Red Cross teams were eventually able to get to them, and they were able to pull Zainab out from the rubble. She was really seriously injured at that point, and they were also able to extricate the 2 civilians. They were able to recover their bodies from the vehicle that was the subject of the initial strike, but they couldn't find Amal. She was missing. And what happened then is that the ambulance actually came under fire. So the Israelis targeted it with a stun grenade, and they fired directly on it. And so they...
Wait, so then they start attacking the ambulance? Guys, come on. See what I mean? It's like, why would you try to coordinate with Israel? At this point, we all know. If they hadn't returned to the car, they probably, Amal would probably been alive. That's crazy. How was the drone just waiting for them at her car? And even after that, they tried to kill the paramedics. Doesn't that sound familiar? I just described what happened to Hind. That's literally what they did. They killed a 5-year-old's family. Then they killed her, and then they killed all of the paramedics in the ambulance.
They had to flee the scene in a hurry, right? They couldn't find Amal. They were coming under fire. There was no guarantee that another airstrike wasn't coming. So they got out of there. They took Zainab to hospital where she underwent emergency surgery. We understand she's stable, but she's still in a really bad way. But all this time, Amal was still missing. They didn't know if she was alive under the rubble. They didn't know if she was dead, if she was injured, and they needed to get back to her. And it took hours, again, for them to get the permission that they needed to go back to the site and actually start looking for her.
And when they finally found her, that was a process that took hours of digging through rubble.
Exactly. So they needed to go back with heavy equipment. They went back in with an excavator, actually, because Amal, unfortunately, the part of the building that she was hiding in took the brunt of that airstrike. And so it was completely collapsed on top of her. So they had to dig her out. They didn't find her until after 11 p.m. when they were eventually able to recover her body.
Well, Heidi, these details are shocking and tragic. And I know that you learned of many of them because you spoke to the family members who were getting these updates as they came in, because she was sending voice notes, as you mentioned, to her family. You were at the funeral and you spoke to her brother. What was that conversation like?
I mean, it was heartbreaking, right? Because this is a man whose sister had just died. She didn't have to die. Those two journalists didn't die in the initial strike, right? The one that hit the vehicle in front of them, they survived that. They took cover. They were hiding. The Ministry of Health, actually, the language that they used was that they were pursued by Israeli airstrikes. And so he was really strong when we were speaking to him, but he was angry.
Unfortunately, if there was movement, or if Israel had not denied permission to enter to rescue Amal, Amal would be standing in my place speaking, and it wouldn't be me speaking on her behalf.
And what he told us is that if immediate access had been given after that first strike, if the rescue teams had been able to get to her, that his sister would still be alive. And, you know, he again pointed out, you know, my sister was a journalist. She's protected under international human rights law. But she's obviously not the first or the only Lebanese journalist to die, not even the first or the only to die this month as a result of targeted Israeli strikes. And part of the reason that he was keen to share that with us is to prove Amal was alive after that first strike, and she told them she was fine. It was only after the second airstrike that her phone went offline and that nobody was able to reach her.
So this was an example of what's known as a double tap strike.
Double tap, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And there have been loads of those in southern Lebanon, or not even just in South Lebanon, but across the country. You know, this is a playbook that we have seen the Israelis use in Gaza. It's a playbook that was used during the 2024 war here in Lebanon, and it's one that we have seen again and again. In fact, it's not even just double taps. We sometimes have triple or even quadruple attacks as like successive waves of first responders, whether it's ambulances, firemen, paramedics, or even just people at the scene try to go and help. They get hit again and again and again.
Heidi, you mentioned the playbook, and another angle of this playbook that we've seen again and again, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, is these messages that come to specifically journalists, warning them or telling them that they need to leave, they need to get out of an area, or they will be killed, their families will be killed. How do you make sense of the messages that we know Amal reportedly received, given that they didn't come from an obscure place? They come from someone who has named himself, but he's not in the government. How do you square that?
I mean, you're right. It is different. Sometimes journalists received messages or warnings, particularly in Gaza, that were identifiably from the Israeli military, or they seemed to be on behalf of the Israeli state. This was from a private citizen. I asked him how he got Amal's number. He wouldn't tell me. After I said, "Are you aware that Amal has now been killed in an Israeli airstrike?" His response was essentially like, she had it coming, because the attitude that
What? I thought you said he felt bad earlier, girl. I thought you said he felt bad earlier. What do you... Okay. So he didn't give a fuck. Oh my god. So for me, that means he was paid to do that. Or he was allowed to do that by the Israeli government. That just doesn't make sense.
he has, and that I think it's also the attitude that the Israeli military has, right? Is that these journalists are aligned with Hezbollah or with Hamas. They say these kind of things with no evidence. In fact, in the last targeted strike against journalists, it was journalists from Al Mana and Al Mayadeen. Now, Mana and Mayadeen, yes, they are affiliated with Hezbollah, but that doesn't mean that their journalists are not civilians. It doesn't mean that they're not protected by international human rights law. They are not soldiers. They are not fighters. They're not militants. They're civilian journalists doing their jobs. But after they targeted and killed those 3 journalists, the Israeli military put out a photo, which they later had to admit was photoshopped, saying that one of them, Ali, was a member of Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces. So there's this attempt to smear journalists who are merely doing their jobs on the front lines, covering what's happening in their...
See, they did that with Shireen as well. That's insane. Like, they keep using the same tactics, the same propaganda. They kill a journalist. They blame the people in Palestine. They blame the resistant fighters in Palestine. They blame the resistant fighters in Lebanon. They try to frame them, and then it turns out Lamau JK, we lied, obviously, and yeah, we did kill them. Like, they succeeded with Shireen, and they keep doing it, and they keep fucking doing it.
Their country and try to associate them with armed groups when they are civilians doing their job.
How has the Israeli government responded to this specific killing and the injuring of another journalist in this strike?
Yeah, so we had statements from the Israeli military in the aftermath of these attacks, and they described the first attack as, as targeting what they described as terrorists. Then after it became clear that Amal had been killed and that Zainab had been injured in this second strike, they said that they don't target journalists, which...
But they just targeted... They just targeted a journalist. 2 of them, actually.
When you look at the numbers of journalists who have been killed in Gaza, when you look at the pattern of attacks here in Lebanon and the number of journalists who've been killed here as well, it just doesn't really make sense. And there's been really widespread condemnation here in Lebanon as well, right? Like, we had the president who came out today and described this as deliberate, consistent targeting of journalists, and he said that that was a deliberate attempt by Israel to conceal the truth of their aggression here in Lebanon.
And what of the responsibility of allowing the paramedics and the ambulances to be able to get to the injured? Has the Israeli military said anything about that?
Yeah, so again, they denied that they prevented rescue teams from reaching the location, but the wording was quite careful, right? It was sort of 4 hours after that airstrike, and it was actually after the rescue teams had finally been able to reach the location that the Israeli military put out a statement in the present tense saying, we're not preventing rescue teams from getting to the location. They didn't say anything about the fact that they had been for the previous 4 or so hours.
So you mentioned the Lebanese government's response. Is there any actual recourse here?
So, the Lebanese government has said that they will be attempting to get recourse through the mechanisms of international law. After previous attacks on journalists and medics, they've said that they would be making complaints to the UN. It's difficult, right? Because Israel is not a member of the International Criminal Court. And so in the way that you might normally take a country or a military leader to court for war crimes or crimes against humanity, there isn't necessarily a mechanism to do that. And so that means that there has been very little accountability, that this has continued to happen basically with impunity. The only accountability that might come is sort of international condemnation, and then whatever acts individual countries might take in response to that, whether it's stopping weapons shipments and things like that. But in terms of actual concrete mechanisms,
the only country doing that, honestly, I mean, other than Iran, I guess. Not that Iran sends weapons there, but they're definitely not allowing Israel to get oil anymore, which is the reason why Trump bombed Venezuela, kidnapped their president, and put a someone else that would listen to everything they say. All that oil in Venezuela that used to be shipped to Cuba is now shipped to Israel, okay, and also sold to China. Venezuela was going to sell oil to China. America said, no, you can only do that if we sell it for you. They said no. They then bombed Venezuela, kidnapped the president, and put a new one in there. And now the U.S. controls Venezuelan oil for Israel's benefit, and also sell the oil to China. So, it's like the countries that are complicit are basically countries that follow the US's every order. And surprisingly, the only Western country that I can think of, or Western and European country actually that I can think of that is actually resisting against Israel and are planning to not send weapons to Israel no longer, is Spain. And I've heard rumors around these parts. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but there has been rumors that there was an assassination attempt against the prime minister. Is it prime minister or president? Maybe it is president. The president of Spain, because they've been consistently, after October 7th, they've been consistently against genocide in Israel. And now they took a bit too long, in my opinion, but now are planning and officially trying to enforce a law that doesn't allow transportation of weapons to Israel, and have that law also be followed by other European nations. But it's mostly Spain only doing that, you know? I'm not aware of other countries that have power, which are Western countries, doing that same thing. And that's the goal. That should be the goal. All of the Western countries need to stop exporting goods, weapons, oil, anything to Israel. Because at this point, Israel has proven to be a threat to humanity. They are committing genocide in Palestine, are trying to commit genocide in Lebanon, and anywhere else they see as an enemy, especially Iran. And look at us now. Most of us are fucked about the whole situation with oil. The Strait of Hormuz being locked down, rightfully, by the way, rightfully. I agree that Iran should do that. Why? Well, why the fuck should Israel and the US kill 200 little girls also in a double tap strike, by the way? They strike it once, and all the little girls that survived who were running away, well, they struck it again to make sure they all died. Okay? How come they get away with that? No, there has to be consequences for murder of children, of families and innocent civilians and journalists. And so yeah, close the fucking Strait of Hormuz. The US needs to face the consequences for its actions, especially the civilians who keep ignoring this fucking shit. Same with every other Western country out there. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm scared. I know my family's going to be extremely hurt by this. Okay, we can barely get by with anything. Okay, we live paycheck to paycheck. And just imagining the oil being $7 a gallon and not being able to go to work, or losing your whole last paycheck with just by putting gas in your car. That's insane. But you know what? Fuck us. We deserve it. That's what we get for not forcing Biden to stop the genocide once it started. Not forcing Kamala to also stop the genocide once she would become president. And now we have to deal with this dipshit who had the help of the Democratic Party to continue genocide, not only in Palestine. Now they want to do that shit all over the world. All over the world. Now they're also aiming at Mexico, by the way. Mexico is becoming a huge socialist movement. They are forgiving loans. They are giving money to the people. They're refusing the U.S. to meddle in their affairs. And the U.S. is now trying to get other local governments to go against the president of Mexico as well. It's like, look what this has enforced. And it all started with Palestine. This is what happens when you don't speak out. So you keep not talking against the corruption of your own government, you will suffer for it. You might even die. So if you're afraid of like speaking out now, well, you should also be afraid of not speaking out.
Use, or indeed that the Lebanese government could use. Yes, they can complain to the UN.
What's the UN going to do?
Really that many formal mechanisms.
You know, Heidi, I hear the very idyllic, peaceful sounds of birds tweeting in the background of your shot. There's water lapping on the shore, and it seems like a moment of calm. And yet we know it's not because of what we're talking about. So in the backdrop to this, there is a meeting expected to take place today, Thursday, in Washington, D.C., between Lebanon and Israel, where it's been reported that they're going to ask for an extension to the ceasefire. What impact could this cessation of calm in the middle of what's supposed to be a ceasefire affect negotiations? Will it?
I mean, it's difficult to say, right? Because we're talking about a ceasefire, and yeah, it feels and sounds calm here at the moment, but actually all day we have been hearing the sound of explosions, which is Israel demolishing homes. The reason I sat here actually is because you can sometimes see it in the background. You see plumes of smoke along these hills behind me, and that is Israel. They've laid explosives in people's homes and in other buildings in the villages which they occupied on the hills behind me, and you hear the sound of those detonations. In fact, one of them, it was so large, they're quite far away. One of them was so large, it shook the windows, even at this distance. Wow. And we could hear that even all throughout Amal's funeral. She'd gone to southern Lebanon to document Israel's destruction and the continuing destruction even during the ceasefire, and she was killed while she was doing that. But, in terms of the ceasefire, it continues to be broken by Israel.
Of course.
And Hezbollah has now also actually started firing back. So they've said in direct response to this, they've been launching drone strikes and artillery and rocket fire at some of the Israeli troops. So yes, it's a ceasefire, but it's a very uneasy, it feels very fragile, this ceasefire. And so yeah, we've got these talks that will be happening in Washington. So they're at the ambassadorial level. So it's Lebanon's ambassador to the US, Israel's ambassador to the US, and then a couple of US officials, including Mike Huckabee, who will be present. They're not negotiations at this point. That's the meetings that are happening at this point.
The thing is like, nothing is being done, Shut. They have negotiations, and then Israel breaks whatever negotiations has been agreed upon, and either Lebanon or Iran or Palestine fucking defends themselves because Israel keeps breaking the ceasefire, and then Trump has to be like, okay, we're not ending this is blah, blah. It's just a fucking cycle at this point. I don't understand when it's gonna stop. At this point, we are so fucked. Japan, I mean, I don't know when it's gonna hit Japan. I'm surprised. It seems like Iran is willing to give Japan oil if Japan doesn't reject it again. But the thing is like, recently, and I'm sure you guys have seen the news on this, it was announced by the Calbee manufacturer, who makes Japan's famous potato chips, will stop using colored ink on their bags, and their bags will just be black and white. Why? Because they need petroleum to make colored ink on their packaging. I didn't even know that you needed like, you know, petroleum to do that. It kind of raises questions on, you know, environmentalism. Is that a word? Because, you know, Japan's running out of oil, so they're trying to preserve oil, because you need oil to make ink, and you need more oil to make colored ink. And so to preserve oil, they're just gonna use casual black and white ink. So Japan is running out of ink as we speak. I've also seen reports of printing companies, you know, that print newspapers, perhaps even manga, saying that they're running out of ink. Why? Because there isn't enough oil. Japan keeps saying everything's fine. The leaders of Japan keep saying everything is fine. But apparently, starting in May, my bag of potato chips are going to be black and gray. And I'll buy some and show you guys. And the thing is like, this shit is going to affect everyone. And I just don't understand why the US is treating this like some fucking casual drama spat when a bunch of lives are at risk. Just fuck off with it. Just tell Israel to fuck off already. What's going on here? How long are we gonna let this continue? How long are we gonna let our governments continue the bullshit, chat?
Basically to set up negotiations down the line. And so what might come out of this is dates for future meetings. And, you know, the hope on one side of Lebanese politics, at least, is that these meetings and the fact that the US is ostensibly wants them to succeed might apply some pressure on Israel to it.
Huge might. It's been 2 weeks since this, right? Since this was reported on, since Amal Khalil's death has been reported on. Nothing, chat. Nothing.
Least tone things down a bit. So in the last week, yes, there's been continued Israeli military activity in South Lebanon, but there haven't been strikes on the capital or its suburbs. So it's a decrease in hostilities, it's a decrease in violence, but it's not a real ceasefire yet. And the hope for many here is that if these meetings lead to actual negotiations, that would then lead to a real ceasefire and eventually an Israeli withdrawal. But it's not guaranteed that that's going to happen.
Oh. Well, finally, Heidi, we know these details, harrowing details of what these attacks are like because of the work of journalists like you. So thank you for your reporting. And we also know that disproportionately, the people facing the brunt of what it's like to bring us this information are Lebanese journalists who are on those front lines. And so I want to end this conversation back on Amal Khalil and her legacy, sharing with the world what she was trying to share with the world through her news and through her journalism. How was she remembered at her funeral?
So Amal, she was well loved. She's one of 4 sisters, 4 brothers. She comes from a big family who all loved her really dearly. And she's also beloved. Whoa. That was a big one.
Was that wind or a blast?
No, that was a blast. And actually, that was enormous. I can see a really large trail of smoke on the hills behind me here. So that looks like a detonation. But
so much for a ceasefire.
Well, exactly.
So much for a fucking ceasefire.
She was really beloved by her colleagues who knew her. You know, journalists working here in South Lebanon. They work together, they share rides, they help each other out. It's a real sense of solidarity down here, and they're united in their purpose, right? Which is to show what's happening to their country, to document what Israel is doing here. And it was a moment of sadness, but also real solidarity and this sense of purpose. And people were talking about carrying on the work that she worked so hard to do, that she lost her life doing, and that should never have happened. At her funeral, people, they were holding her press vest and her press helmet aloft over her coffin, as she was being laid to rest. And, they called her the flower of the South. And she's known as a really dedicated and principled journalist, but also a really dedicated and principled person. I think there's a sort of seriousness, right, that it is sometimes forced upon local journalists when they become war reporters. People like me, we choose this life. We come to places to report on conflict, but when it happens in your own country, it is such a heavier burden. It's such a heavier responsibility, but it's one that, from talking to people who knew her, that she really carried with a lot of grace.
Heidi, thank you for sharing your reporting on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's a very intense way to die as well. Just being chased by a fucking drone, surviving a strike, then surviving another strike with a grenade, again a drone chasing you. They run back into a building. They strike the building. They are able to allow her colleague to escape. They didn't allow her colleague, by the way. They just went to go save the colleague. The ambulance was attacked. Because the ambulance was attacked, the ambulance just had to leave. They didn't have enough time to look for Amal in the rubble. Apparently, she was sending voice messages, and we heard her, telling her family members she was fine, she was okay. And then all of a sudden, after they did a double strike on the building chat, her phone went offline. And then hours later, they found her body under the rubble. And the thing is like, again, these people are more than just journalists. These people are humans. They're people with families, passions, and they called her the flower of Lebanon. That's very beautiful to me. One of her passions, by the way, other than reporting the news as a journalist, she was also an avid cat rescuer. Okay, she would rescue animals, especially cats, in southern Lebanon during Israel's bombing campaigns. And what did Israel do? They killed her. So give me a sec here. And let me zoom in for y'all. Okay, so again, this is from Al Jazeera Plus. Again, it says Amal Khalil was a devoted journalist who also rescued animals in southern Lebanon during Israel's bombing campaigns. Israel killed her. So I will try my best to read this as quickly as possible. The captions are usually faster than me, but I'll do my best here. It says, Lebanese journalist Amal Khalil is being remembered for her bravery and her love of animals. It's a gato. That's a gato, chat. Khalil was also known as a reporter who made time to comfort and help traumatized animals at the job. She once interrupted her own field report to rescue a cat she found under the rubble. An animal rescue service in Lebanon memorialized her, saying, despite her difficult work as a journalist in the South, she never stopped caring for animals and continued helping rescuing them whenever she could, and that was by rescuing souls. Khalil refused to back down from reporting in southern Lebanon, even after revealing death threats against her from an Israeli phone number. On April 22nd, her employer reported an Israeli strike killed Khalil while she was covering Israel's violations of the ceasefire. She is at least the 9th journalist Israel has killed in Lebanon in 2026. She was targeted alongside her colleague journalist Zainab Faraj, who was injured in the attack. Israel pursued Khalil, forcing her to take shelter in a building, says Lebanon's health ministry, and then killed her in a double-tap strike. Khalil's reporting was a love letter to southern Lebanon, celebrating its history and beauty, bearing witness to its destruction, and honoring the resilience of its people. People have returned here just hours into the ceasefire, and their insistence on sleeping in their homes destroys Israel's dreams of controlling the castle and this area. Israel agreed to a ceasefire in Lebanon on April 16th, but has continued to bomb and kill civilians. So, as I mentioned earlier, we learned about Shireen Abu Akleh. Akleh's death, very horrible death. How even after death, they beat the shit out of those who were mourning her. And then Biden didn't do shit to find out who killed her. And we watched a documentary where other people were able to easily find the person who killed her. And this documentary was revealed 6 months ago. So it goes to show how the Biden administration just really supported genocide. And a lot of people keep shitting on everyone else, including me, for not supporting dumbass politics in like that. You know, me not supporting Democrats, liberals, whatever the fuck. And of course, obviously Republicans, but they're like the easy bad guy. People just refuse to give responsibility to those who pretend to care about you and me. And it turns out it was so easy for a group of people to get together and find out who killed Shireen. And her death was the start, because she died before October 7th. Her death was the start of many more journalists dying in Palestine. And now Palestine is suffering from genocide. Civilians and many others are dead. And when it comes to journalists, over 200 journalists were killed in Palestine. And Shireen, her death simply has been repeated every day. Ever since she was died, her death keeps on repeating. Now Israel is trying to commit another genocide in Lebanon. And they've killed 9 journalists already, including this person, Amal Khalil, okay? A woman who was brave enough to continue reporting on the atrocities of Israel, who even when she was reporting, still had the heart, okay? The heart to go and save animals who were trapped in under rubble, who suffered from Israel bombings. So I hope you can see how Shireen is a symbol, of course, of how journalism is important, how Israel is corrupt, But we cannot allow Israel to continue to use the way that they killed her on other journalists and civilians as well. And it makes me sad because, you know, just like watching this person, you know, playing with kittens, fucking L, or watching Shireen's family holding her casket being beat up, that makes me sad. And a lot of people are tired of being sad. That's why a lot of people, especially those suffering, need to resist. And that's right. That's rightful. But for those who are weak, like me, especially me, because lately I've been discouraged because, I mean, obviously, real life issues and just the sadness of feeling like I'm the only one who cares sometimes in this fucking dumbass community that is the VTubing community. How I have to fight with dumbass randos to force someone to understand that speaking politics and criticizing people who do harmful things that could lead to more harmful things in the VTubing community, how that is important. And just people just turn a cheek and or treat me and other people like me like the plague, like we're bad people, like we're cringe, like we take things too fucking personally. Well, of course I'm gonna take things personally if no one fucking cares about other people or even fucking me. Sometimes I feel I've lost way too many fucking friends over shit that I talk about or that I'm passionate about or things that I take personally. And it's tiring. It's tiring having to convince people to care about others. But I can't keep whining about it. That's why I keep calling myself weak, because this is what I fucking signed up for. And compared to my dumbass grievances, Shireen, Amal, and everyone else in Palestine and Lebanon are suffering more. And that is the main point and should be the main point. I'm slapping myself now. Keep it together, woman. And I hope you guys can keep it together as well. Because I can't do this shit on my own. That's why I'm calling for people to care, to stand by me, and to stand by Palestine, and to stand by Lebanon, Iran, everyone else that's suffering from Israel, and the US. You know, I can't do this shit on my own. It's hard. It's hard because people will demonize me for humanizing others. That's why we need more people to care, more people to speak out. You know? At least show some sort of solidarity. At least do the bare minimum. Boycott. Don't buy McDonald's. You know? Don't buy Burger King. Don't buy Pizza Hut. Don't fucking buy other products from companies that give money, so much money and food and power to Israel to kill more innocent people. To kill people right here who are saving kitties, man. Are you kidding me? To talk about the Global Summit flotillas. I'm pretty sure it might pop out on my live page. Look right here. They are still sailing towards Palestine, by the way. To keep eyes on the flotilla boats, chat. Make sure that Israel doesn't kill these civilians, these activists that are trying to give food to the Palestinian people. Talk about it. Talk about it at least. I'm not telling you to become a political commentator like me. That's my job. Or other people's job who wants to do that. But at least care enough to talk about it and to do something about it, which is boycotting, learning, speak on it with your friends or anyone else. Fucking, donate to charity, of course. By the way, I have the PCRF charity again to help those who suffered who were forced out of Palestine and need money for support, medication, and aid in other ways and forms, And if you meet someone who is into all of this as I am, like, at least support them, because this shit is very bad for your mental. I haven't slept in like 2 days, which is probably why I'm still streaming right now, because I got used to not sleeping. This shit is a lot, and I get it. That's why I speak on it, so people can have a filter at least. I'm the filter that makes things more easy to understand for you guys. More comprehensible, and try to get you guys to care a little bit more. I get it. This stuff is hard. Like, my brain is kind of fried from all of this. But I'm doing this for a reason, and there's many more people that I haven't met, unfortunately. I don't know whoever, but I know there's someone else like me out there. So just do your best to do the right thing, because things are getting worse, and now it's affecting the whole world, chat. The whole world. Now, like I said earlier, now even Mexico's a target. Of course, Lebanon has always been a target, but now they're kind of officially moving towards genocide for Lebanon. I want whatever's going on with Iran, not like, of course it's not Iran's fault, it's obviously Israel and Americans' fault. But we gotta fix this already, because all of this shit is gonna affect everyone. And I feel like it's especially gonna affect those in the US. So we deserve it, obviously, alongside other Western powers that, don't care enough to do what's right. But we don't need to suffer, chat. And of course, it shouldn't be about us, but Palestinians do not need to be killed. Palestinians do not need to be ignored. The Lebanese people do not need to be ignored and killed. Iranians, 200 little girls, chat. 200 little girls to start the war in Iran. All because we refused to do anything about it. We killed 200 girls in an elementary school to start the war in Iran. Double strike as well. So if you're quiet about this shit, like, you're at fault too, man. At least talk about it. to people who you love, because eventually that will inspire people with more power to do something about it, man. I think I'm super emotional because I haven't slept. I'm super tired, but I can't sleep. But at least tomorrow's Friday. So I only have to do one more day of work and then I can try to sleep, I guess, after. I'm just very tired, I think, because I haven't slept in legit 2 days. So I think my body is just extremely exhausted. Okay. I keep crying, I don't know. Well, I do know why. I think I have a good reason to cry, but of course that might turn off people from watching the stream, so I'm just gonna end it. Okay, y'all? I'll see you later. Thank you for joining TamaTalks. I'm sorry for canceling on Tuesday. I was having a very bad migraine. And I'll see you guys on tomorrow, I mean, or today, technically speaking, at 11 p.m. JST. I will be playing Warframe for the first time. I feel like that's not appropriate to say. A game based on war. Jesus Christ. I'll try to play Warframe for the first time tomorrow. See if I like it. I've always said I wanted to play a shooter game, but they're all first person shooters, and playing games with first person perspective makes me extremely dizzy and nauseous and want to throw up. This game is actually third person and it seems like it's popular, so I'm like, hey, Fortnite, well, it's not, Fortnite is kind of cringe. What's it called? The other one that starts with an F. No, wait, that's a V. Valorant is hard to download into my PC. Warframe, I've never heard of it. I have no bias against it. Let's try it. So I'll try it tomorrow and see if I like it. And Saturday I'll once again play No I'm Not Human. And if I liked Warframe, I might play Warframe with the Zaya 36, okay, y'all? Anyway, free Palestine, free Lebanon. And try to learn about issues, okay, y'all? Sorry for getting too emotional. I'm just tired, I think. You could play Marvel Rivals with us. It's third person too. Yeah, but Marvel Rivals is owned by Disney. At least Marvel is owned by Disney. So Disney is also boycott chat. And for me, that's why I don't play Marvel Rivals. I really want to, because I love Spider-Man. But ever since they were bought by Disney, things suck. Shit. I really want to play it though, not gonna lie. I don't know, but yeah, thank you for again, if you play Marvel Rivals, you're not like a bad person or anything. It's just for me, I try my best to boycott what I can. So I can boycott Marvel Rivals because I'm not a I'm not even a person who plays shooter games, so it's fine. Just boycott the main companies, Chad. Do your best, okay? That's the whole point of boycotting. Okay, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna try to sleep now. It's 3 a.m. and I have work in 3 hours, so I'll see you guys later. Alligators, good night. Bye. But the game itself isn't from them. They only got the license. But doesn't the license, like, give them money still? Doesn't buying the game inherently still, like, promote them and or gives them money? Anyways, I'm gonna go to sleep now. Bye bye, y'all. See you.
してるから今